This guy has the rarest, most godly cheat code ever. The holy fingers. Yeah. Get your mind out of the gutter, his hands are actually sacred. With just his divine index finger, he can obliterate anything in its path. His divine middle finger literally flips off enemies to summon absolute judgment. Meanwhile, his divine ring finger heals his squad mates. In a fantasy world where everyone gets a superpower, he is basically a living cheat code. But our story actually starts on a totally normal day. Ilshin finds a random game installed on his phone. He taps on a mysterious chest, and it pops open. The screen reads, "Welcome to Evil God Creator." Then, a tiny ant crawls across his screen, followed by some weird, glitchy text. Confused, he just starts tapping randomly to see what happens. Suddenly, his finger squashes the poor ant right through the screen. A glowing coin flies out. The notification says, "Target crushed you to death, rewarding you with 1 divine coin. Congratulations." Our main character stares at his screen, completely dumbfounded. Did he just awaken some legendary hunter skill? Honestly, if this happened 20 years ago, he would have checked himself straight into a mental hospital. But hey, times are different now. 20 years ago, giant dimensional rifts ripped open, unleashing hordes of terrifying monsters. Humanity was almost wiped out, until humans suddenly started unlocking crazy superpowers. This newfound magic power became humanity's only saving grace. Hunters are ranked from elite SSS rank all the way down to trash tier G rank. And once your rank is locked in, there is basically no changing it. Eager to see his power, our guy heads to the testing facility. The receptionist smiles warmly and says, "Congratulations, Mr. Ilshin. You actually have an active hunter constitution." He is absolutely thrilled, instantly daydreaming about being a wealthy hunter, swamped by adoring fans. He closes his eyes, praying with all his soul for at least a decent D rank. Instead, the screen displays G rank. He freezes. G rank? That is basically a normal civilian. The clerk nods, asking if he wants to register for the low price of $280,000. No way. He has zero access to high-level dungeons anyway, so why throw away his life savings on a useless license? Frustrated and broke, he heads back home that night. Just as he is about to sleep, his phone starts buzzing like crazy. Instantly awake, he grabs the device and starts squishing virtual ants on the screen, just to vent his sheer rage. Before he knows it, shiny physical coins start spilling out of his phone, covering the bedroom floor. By morning, those scattered coins have merged together into one small stack worth 100 points. A new pop-up appears, congratulating him for unlocking the secret deity shop. Would he like to open it? Well, duh. He slams his finger on the screen without a second thought. To unlock the shop, he needs to spend those 100 coins. He confirms the purchase, and a real coin literally vanishes from his room. But once the shop loads, the font is in complete gibberish. He cannot read a single thing. Even worse, the item prices are listed at 1 billion coins. He farmed all night just to get 300, making these prices totally insane. Suddenly, the store inventory refreshes. The very top item is heavily discounted to just 100 coins. He buys it, unlocking a passive skill called the Blind God's Eye. He scoffs. Blind God? That just sounds like being legally blind. What good is a blind eye? But then, boom, his vision goes pitch black. Panic setting in, he gropes around for his phone. Smash. He stubs his toe directly on the sharp table corner. The agonizing pain makes him scream, but suddenly, his vision flashes back. Heart pounding, he grabs his phone, utterly terrified. Amazingly, he can finally read the glitched text. The shop is filled with insane gear and abilities. After scrolling a bit, he spots a growing type skill called the Divine Index Finger of Destruction. He unlocks it instantly. He stares at his finger, wondering what kind of holy magic this Divine Index Finger actually possesses. But right after he speaks, his air conditioner behind him suddenly starts running. He points his finger at the air conditioner and says, "Divine Index Finger." Click. It shuts off. He points his hand at his computer, and it boots up immediately. Wow. His god-level superpower is literally just a glorified TV remote. Shaking his head, he opens his app to squish more ants, when a tough red ant suddenly appears. He taps like crazy, but the thing dodges every single strike. Realizing this must be a rare dungeon boss, he furiously taps his screen, but the speedy little bug is just too fast. Grinding his teeth, he taps with absolute fury until his hand completely cramps up. Yet, the stubborn red ant manages to slip away. Annoyed, he goes back to squishing the normal black ones. The app notifications say he has cleared 800 taps, with only 200 left to unlock the mysterious title of Evil God. At this point, our main character is completely drained of energy. He collapses onto his mattress and passes out. Meanwhile, his phone screen flashes, showing that his blind god eye has unlocked a passive dream projection. Soon, he is dreaming of a cinema. On the screen, that sneaky red ant is hobbling on a tiny cane toward a massive cave. Inside, thousands of ants are feasting. The red ant gasps out, "I found the giant food source, but their dark deity attacked me. He is absolutely monstrous, and I barely made it out alive. We have to attack before he finds us." But the other ants just laugh at him, calling him a pathetic coward for being beaten up by mere food. Just die already. Suddenly, a wise old elder ant slowly walks into the chamber, stroking his antennae. He commands silence, declaring that he senses the dark god's presence on their sacred soil. They must launch an immediate holy war to execute this evil spirit. This is the holy land of our emperor, and we cannot let a dark god roam free. Prepare for immediate execution. The wise elder places his hand on the wounded red ant's head. Magic energy flows, instantly healing the soldier's injuries. He commands the scout to lead the way, promising to personally crush this dark spirit. The massive ant army begins chanting for blood. Suddenly, Ilshin snaps awake, rubbing his eyes in confusion. Talk about a super realistic dream. Did he seriously just have a cinematic nightmare about bugs? Then, his phone buzzes. The red ant boss is back on his screen. Cracking his knuckles, he prepares to squash it. But suddenly, a massive army of red ants surrounds him. The center boss commands nature's judgment upon the dark god. Flash of blue light shoots straight out of his phone screen, cutting a real wound right onto his forehead. On the screen, the tiny insect wizards are channeling a massive spell, cheering about slaying a literal deity. They rejoice, boasting that the emperor will reward them with holy treasures for taking down the dark demon. But before they can celebrate their victory, a blazing red light suddenly rains down on their battlefield. An absolute meteor shower of destruction wipes out the entire bug army. Back in reality, Ilshin is aggressively hate-tapping his screen, hammering his finger down with so much force that smoke begins to rise. He finally snaps out of his rage, only to realize his phone screen is completely ruined. But suddenly, gold coins explode everywhere in his bedroom. The screen flashes, confirming he reached 1,000 taps. Congratulations, you unlock the title of Cruel Slaughterer. He is completely offended, considering himself an outstanding citizen. Suddenly, the pile of coins on the floor melts together, forming a ring. He inspects the mysterious accessory, catching a sweet forest scent that instantly clears his head. Intrigued, he slides the ring onto his pinky finger. Immediately, a rush of raw power surges through his veins. His body feels completely revitalized, wiping away every ounce of exhaustion. His glitchy phone buzzes, auto-activating his passive appraisal. Item identified, Druid's Ring. It harbors immense life force to accelerate growth. Excited, he tests the skill on his computer. Boom, a stat block pops up. He realizes that with this insane ring and appraisal skill, his hunter rank might actually be much higher now. There is absolutely no way he is still trash tier G rank with a cheat item like this. Confident in his newly gained power, he decides to head back to the association for a retest. When he arrives, the clerk looks at him with pure skepticism, warning him that their machines have a tiny error margin. Are you absolutely sure you want to waste your time? He just grins. The clerk cheerfully smiles and drops a massive bill over 1.58 million. Hearing that insane price, our guy instantly falls into complete despair. After all, he is just a measly F-rank hunter. He awkwardly apologizes and promises to come back later, totally embarrassed. That weird ring got him way too hyped. He slumps onto a nearby sofa, his phone suddenly activates the blind god's eye to appraise people around him. First guy, 30 years old, suffering from hemorrhoids. Second guy, 41, kidney deficiency. But then, a gorgeous young woman in the distance catches his attention. Her status reads, Song Mary, 19 years old, and apparently, she is tingling. He wonders why she actually has a name displayed, and what on earth tingling even means. Suddenly, he cannot control his own body. He walks straight toward her and reaches out to tap her shoulder. He awkwardly asks if she is experiencing a tingling sensation. Safe to say, the girl looks at him with pure disgust as literal lightning crackles in her hand. He panics, begging her not to think he is a creep, but she is about to vaporize him. Luckily, his phone rings, and he feels immensely relieved. He snatches his phone and books it. Turns out, his sister is calling him to pick up his niece. He heads to the park and finds the little angel, wondering how his demon sister had such a cute kid. He looks at her adorable chubby face and just cannot resist pinching those cheeks. But his niece immediately stomps her feet in pure anger, complaining that her uncle is being super annoying. She expressly told him not to pinch her. He knows he is in big trouble, and calming her down will take hours. Suddenly, the blind god's eye activates, successfully appraising his niece, Kai Chong-yin. Says she desperately wants a chocolate ice cream cone. He immediately offers to go buy her one, making her mouth water instantly. Moments later, they arrive at the local ice cream shop. The staff greets them with a warm smile, but when he pulls out a massive pile of loose coins to pay for one single cone, their enthusiasm instantly vanishes. They start sorting the coins in silence, while the chocolate portion they hand over is visibly tiny. Luckily, he has a little trick up his sleeve. He secretly points his divine index finger at the ice cream machine, and the device suddenly starts overflowing with ice cream. He asks for a tiny bite, but she flatly refuses. Suddenly, his phone blares a loud warning. He checks the screen to see a bizarre notification title, Activated Cruel Slaughterer. Suddenly, his combat fortune spikes. The ground violently shakes, glowing red eyes appear in the sky, and a massive, terrifying horned beast tears out of a spatial rift. The giant monster starts smashing everything in sight. He grabs his niece and sprints for survival, but she suddenly trips over a rock. He quickly pulls her back up, but the beast is already closing in. The horned monster roars and lunges straight for them. He shuts his eyes, preparing for the worst, when suddenly crash, lightning strikes as a familiar girl appears. Yes, the tingling sensation girl, but the monster takes her attack without a single scratch. She charges her lightning again, praying her thunderstorm attack worked, but the beast rises completely unfazed. Damn it, these high-rank monsters are built different. How can a B-rank hunter like her ever hope to defeat one? Spotting the two of them, she shields them and yells to run while she holds the line. But before she can even finish her sentence, the beast lunges again. She tries to summon her lightning, but she is completely drained of energy. The monster looms right over them, triggering a traumatic flashback of her parents. She refuses to forgive them and vows to destroy them all. But her family's warnings echo in her mind, telling her to stop seeking revenge. Suddenly, a strange voice rings in her head, commanding her to crush everything with divine index finger. Absolute power surges through her veins, stronger than anything she has ever known. With a massive thunderstorm, she obliterates the beast. Moments later, crowds gather around the famous B-rank hunter who just defeated an A-rank threat. They hail her as the Thunder Emperor, but she just stares at her hands, feeling like she crossed a godlike boundary. Our guy brings his niece over to thank her. He expresses his endless gratitude, but she kindly replies she is just glad everyone is safe. After carrying his niece back home, our main character, Ilshin, stands alone on a bridge, reflecting on the madness. That monster was targeting him directly to steal his divinity. There is absolutely no way this is a coincidence, especially with the system notification that popped up right after the beast died. Trial completed. Cruel slaughterer rank elevated. As a reward, he can grab powerful divine abilities from the shop for free. The catch? It is strictly limited to evil god exclusive skills. All of this chaos is happening because of his cursed phone. Honestly, he just wants to chuck it into the ocean. But then, it chimes with a weird message from a saint in another world. Right now, a massive ant army is raiding the Dark Tribe's stronghold. Their desperate saint cries out to their deity for salvation, but the enemy general laughs, telling her she has nowhere left to run. Trembling with pure terror, she begs any unnamed god to save her. Watching this tiny creature on his screen, he decides to help. He aims directly at the lead red ant and taps. The invaders sneer that she should be honored to be a tribute for the emperor. Meanwhile, he keeps tapping the screen frantically. Suddenly, his phone alerts him that the saint wants to know his divine name. He types, "The One God." Now, the saint worships him. He unlocks a new title, Benevolent Savior. Holding both good and evil god titles triggers a massive shift in his alignment toward neutral. And as a massive bonus for earning his very first good god title, he receives 100,000 coins. Overjoyed by this sudden jackpot, he immediately opens up the system shop to buy something. He spots Growth God's protection for just 1,000 coins. He buys a bottle and appraises it. The description reads, "An eternal seeker stored his own bodily fluids inside while cultivating. By drinking this mysterious juice, ordinary humans can fully unlock their hidden potential. The more you drink, the better. It smells completely normal, so he downs it and buys several more bottles. But after waiting a bit, nothing happens. Suddenly, his vision goes completely black, and he collapses. His synchronization rate with the evil god creator spikes from 0 to 5%. This sync rate boosts his exclusive abilities. When he finally wakes up days later, he is back in his room, groggily checking his phone. A new notification warns him about the increased sync. The evil god creator battle arena has officially been upgraded. Suddenly, he feels a creepy sensation on his arm. He looks down and freaks out. His bed is covered in thousands of ants. He leaps up and dashes for the exit, only to realize the door is completely jammed. The terrifying ants start chomping on him mercilessly. He runs around screaming, looking desperately toward the window. It is only the 3rd floor, so he should survive the drop. But when he leaps, his head slams hard against the glass and he bounces back. Is this really how he dies? Angry, he activates his divine index, finger, crushing the bugs. But a squad of tiny ant soldiers calmly pulls out their bows, launching a volley of arrows that pierce his entire body. The ant commander laughs, mocking him. They boast about their imperial army, ordering everyone to attack and bring his head to the emperor. Falling to his knees, he struggles to breathe. Suddenly, he spots a potential lifesaver, a simple can of bug spray. He grabs a lighter and creates a makeshift flamethrower, roasting the helpless ant army. Talk about the wrath of a god. Unfortunately, the fire quickly spreads to his entire room, and he cannot even move a muscle. Suddenly, his screen lights up. A high-ranking evil god, silently creeping nightmare, is sending him a dangerous gift that could lock his alignment to evil. With no other options, he desperately accepts the gift. At first, nothing happens. Then, the phone shows that the nightmare's terrifying powers are starting to merge with his own abilities. In complete panic, he tries to trigger his divine index finger, but it fails completely. Is he seriously about to burn alive? Just as hope fades, the window right beside him shatters to pieces. He looks up and sees Sparky. Later, he wakes up in a hospital bed. His niece stares at him suspiciously, demanding the secret password. Mom is a fart fairy chubby auntie. Yep, it is really him. Uncle, you cannot get sick. You have to play with me since I came all this way to see you. Now, stop hurting. Suddenly, two loud screams echo. Hey, I am a patient here. You are going way too far. Your sister is out there cleaning up your absolute mess, and you have the nerve to call me a chubby auntie? Seriously, no conscience. Just then, a knock echoes. Chung-Yoon opens the door, but finds only a flower basket. Uncle, there is nobody out here. He wonders who left it. Meanwhile, high on a nearby rooftop, Sparky is secretly watching him. Ever since she beat that horned monster, she has been completely obsessed. Whenever she is near this guy, her power shoots right past its usual limits. After 3 days of intense stalking, she still has no clue what it is about him that unlocks her hidden potential. Wait, am I acting like a total stalker? Meanwhile, our main character sneaks out before his sister catches him. Suddenly, an intense pain hits his lower half. Did those cursed ants seriously bite his privates? Yep, they bit his most sensitive area, and the torment is unreal. Suddenly, his phone buzzes. The saint and her 101 followers are praying to the one god, wishing to present a holy tribute. A prompt asks if he will accept. Since tribute is for high-status individuals, he gladly taps yes. Instantly, a glowing little stone physically pops right out of his phone screen. It is the fruit of the world tree, one of only 7 remaining in existence, guaranteed to boost vitality. He sniffs it, detects no smell, and gulps it down. Immediately, his entire body tenses up. He grimaces. It is incredibly salty, tasting exactly like an 80-year-old outhouse, but the next second, pure warmth floods his body, healing every single wound. Then, his phone chimes with a brand new notification. Divine Grace function unlocked. Now he can bestow blessings back onto his loyal followers. He wonders what kind of treats ants actually like, and his eyes land on a bag of white sugar nearby. Down in the other world, the ants watch sweet white sugar rain down from the heavens. As they feast, their wounds instantly heal, and even lost limbs start regenerating. Talk about a sweet miracle. Praise the great and merciful one God. His screen flashes with congratulations, gaining him 101 true believers and faith points. He laughs, finding it adorable that basic sugar made them this happy. They really are quite endearing. Shortly after, he heads to a second-hand market to find an item trading shop. The receptionist welcomes him warmly and hands him a form to fill out for his item. He sits down and stares at the paper. It asks for the item's origin, but he can't exactly write down that he got it from squashing bugs. Honestly, if his house didn't need urgent repairs, he wouldn't even sell it. Suddenly, a few guys walk in. Now, you and I can see his auto-appraisal scanning one of them. Male 29, weak muscles. Our main character smirks, realizing he could easily one-punch this guy. He sighs, wondering why his skill keeps activating on its own. At the counter, a customer proudly presents what looks like a gorgeous suit of armor, but our main character's cheat eye sees right through it. It is literally just 29-year-old garbage scrap metal disguised by a cheap illusion spell. Unaware of this, the clerk examines it, gasping at the measured 560 units of magic power. Beautiful, she says. The seller, sporting a ridiculous rooster-like hairstyle, smugly demands 300 million cash for it. The clerk hesitates, then tells him to wait while she retrieves the money from the vault. But our guy cannot just sit there. He stands up and blurts out that the item is a total fake. Instantly, he wants to slap himself for interfering as the 3 scammers freeze in shock. A massive thug grabs him by the collar, roaring, "What absolute garbage are you talking, punk? Can you back that up?" Smiling, our guy taps the armor with his divine index finger, shattering it to dust. The thug winds up a punch, but the leader stops him cold. Recognizing real power, he bows deeply, apologizing for offending an elite hunter, and begs to leave. Our guy just casually nods. As the scammers flee, the grateful clerk beams, calling him a legendary hermit hunter. You know, those incredibly powerful eccentrics who choose to live quiet, normal lives away from the spotlight. Before he can even try to explain, she excitedly asks about the item he wanted to sell. He awkwardly fumbles through his pockets and pulls out a ring, which she begins to evaluate. She sighs, pointing out its magic value is barely 2, making it a D-rank item at best. He quickly takes it back, and his appraisal skill reveals its true identity, the legendary druid's Ring of Life. It holds the forest's life force and is best suited for Sparky, who is currently stalking him from around the corner. She is absolutely baffled by how fast he recovered from his near-death state. Could it be a supreme potion? But he is just a G-rank. So how would he even get one? He must be an elite in hiding. He saw through my disguise and healed instantly. If he is indeed that strong, maybe he can help me break past my own limits. Oh no, there I go, acting like a total stalker again. If my older sister catches me, I am dead. Just as she is panicking, he sneaks up behind her. Blushing furiously, he pulls out the legendary ring and presses it right into her hand, urging her to please take it because it will help. He runs off before she can even process it, leaving her completely stunned. Clutching the mysterious gift, Sparky rushes straight to the local Hunter Association testing center to measure her current power levels. The researcher is in absolute shock, shouting that her energy output has reached 7,000, which is incredible even for A-rank hunters. Sparky stares at her hands, realizing the ring instantly boosted her rank. Who just casually hands out S-tier gear like that? Nearby, a man applauds, flanked by 2 elite S-rank hunters. One of them is Sparky's gorgeous but ice-cold older sister, who immediately glares at her. Do not get ahead of yourself, Shane Lee. You are still just an A-rank, and if you go off seeking revenge alone, I will never forgive you. But internally, Sparky apologizes, knowing she has to go. If that mysterious guy can help her break her limits, getting revenge will be easy. Meanwhile, our hero is fast asleep, having an absolute nightmare where the Ant Emperor commands 5 million troops to crush him. The terrifying general bows, accepting the direct order. Our hero suddenly jolts awake, sweating bullets. He lets out a massive sigh of relief, thanking the heavens it was just a nightmare. But then, reality hits him. In this world, dreams like that are basically spoiler alerts. He barely survived 100,000 ants, and now he is facing 50 times that amount. Panic sets in right before his phone suddenly buzzes. An entity named Silently Creeping Nightmare offers him ultimate power. But there is a catch. This creepy voice calls him a coward and demands he sacrifice 100 of his own blood relatives. He blocks that creep instantly, but then his divine eye activates, projecting a holographic message right in front of him. A massive ant sneers, warning that he will personally sever our hero's head. The hologram cuts out, confirming his nightmare is actually happening. He has only 3 days to prepare. Checking his phone, his loyal followers have also heard the terrifying news and are completely shaking in fear. He needs a solid plan to survive this apocalypse. Standing in front of his bathroom mirror, he tries to use his appraisal skill on himself, staring so hard his eyeballs almost pop out of his skull. Finally, the screen pops up, brutally labeling him as fragile and timid. Sighing, he sits on his bed to purchase supplies, hoping to combine a cheap fire spell with his divine index finger. But in reality, the flame is weaker than a cheap dollar store lighter. Scammed again. Remembering his special potion stash, he decides to chug 200 bottles of Growth God Protection in one go. This crazy move boosts his synchronization rate to 10%. He polishes his sword 20 times before collapsing on his desk. Meanwhile, Sparky is buying cute gifts just to talk to him. Standing outside his apartment, she rings the bell, but nobody answers. That is when she notices the door is actually slightly ajar. Trembling, she pushes it open and nervously calls out his name. But the room is completely empty. Now, you and I are probably wondering where he went. Well, he has been kidnapped and tied up in a warehouse. Yet, he is still sound asleep. He is happily dreaming away, making weird noises while his 3 captors watch in sheer confusion. He suddenly wakes up, blinks, and realizes he has been tied up. Wait, is this a kidnapping? The rooster-headed thug sneers, mocking him for sleeping in a mess like this. Suddenly, the blind god's eye displays info on this guy, a weak human who uses low-grade flames. He has totally underdeveloped muscles. Yep, these are definitely the scammers from the item shop. When our guy asks what they want, the roosterhead demands compensation for ruining their transaction. He awkwardly tells them he does not even have his phone, but the skinny thug holds it up, saying they brought it for him. Suddenly, The blind god's eye warns that an ant army is 20 meters away. It is heading right for them. He frantically yells at them to untie him and throw the phone away. But it is too late. Swarms of ants pour out, instantly covering the skinny guy completely. In just one single second, the ant army devours him completely. The roosterhead and his remaining buddy watch in absolute horror. He curses, thinking our main character can actually control insects. He fires a blast of flames that consumes the ants. Ilshin watches in shock, realizing this low-grade flame is incredibly strong. Having burned them all, the thug turns around menacingly. Now they have to settle the score for his dead buddy. Our hero panics, thinking he is finished. But suddenly, the thug stumbles and collapses as a stone smashes his head, drawing blood. Looking down, they see the freaking ants have built catapults. The big guy tries to run, but the door is locked tight. Our hero begs him to untie him as another rock flies. Even those massive flames could not stop the swarm. He seriously doubts he will make it out alive. If only he had thrown that phone away right from the start. The ant general declares the evil god's minions dead, promising to feed him to the emperor. But then, his phone chimes with a message about activating a minor miracle. Boom. Lightning strikes, instantly frying countless ants. Sparky descends majestically, making our hero rejoice. The ant general fumes with rage, seeing this as total disrespect to the empire. Sending such a powerful minion instead of fighting himself is the ultimate disrespect. To him, this evil god is an absolute monster, capable of destroying their entire empire. The general sheds his armor and roars, swearing that even if he dies today, he will take down one of the god's servants. Meanwhile, Sparky keeps zapping the endless swarm, but there are just too many ants. Our hero stands back, grinning like an idiot, totally clueless about the danger. The general mutters a dark chant, calling for the 1,000 blades. He sacrifices all his own troops for ultimate power. His oblivious minions yell for him to watch out, but the general ruthlessly decapitates every single one of them in one swing. Sparky and Ilshin are left completely stunned. Doing that unleashes massive dark pressure. The blind god's eye identifies her as a general named Kamakiri. She intends to decapitate Sparky with her ultimate blade. Before anyone can react, the general leaps forward. Sparky quickly fires off her lightning. She slices right through the lightning and charges with insane speed. A flash of a blade, and Sparky is down in a pool of blood. Our hero loses his mind with rage. She had saved him 3 times already. Suddenly, a screen pops up offering to alter a mortal's fate for 100,000 divine coins. Without a second thought, he hits confirm. Divine power floods his vision, rewinding time to change her tragic fate. He is back to the exact moment the ant general cuts the lightning and charges straight at Sparky. Sparky closes her eyes, ready for the end. But suddenly, his chains shatter. He stands up, pulls her behind him, and glares at the general with pure, murderous intent. She realizes he is a true master. The arrogant ant general screams in defiance, but our hero simply raises a single finger, the ultimate divine middle finger. The general is instantly vaporized. He stands there looking totally casual, while Sparky stares at him with sparkling, adoring eyes. He spots a small knife and picks it up, but immediately drops it because it is burning hot. Sparky takes off her helmet, excitedly asking if he is the legendary hermit. She drops to her knees, begging to be his disciple. But he is just a bottom-tier hunter. He only won because of his cheat system. He has absolutely nothing to teach her. Yet, Sparky clings to him like glue. She even watches wholesome content right over his shoulder. It is completely shameless. He speechlessly asks how long she plans to crash at his apartment. She insists she is not leaving until he accepts her as his student. He sighs, reminding her he is just a lowly G-rank hunter. But she argues that his ring made her insanely strong, and she wants to repay his incredible generosity. To prove it, she starts hauling heavy bags of cement to renovate his rundown apartment. Soon, the place looks incredibly fancy. Just as they decide to grab some food, an emergency alert hits. No time for dinner now. Sparky snaps her helmet on, ready to deploy. Handing her a bottle of Growth God's protection potion, he tells her to take it just in case. She thanks him and flies off. A bit later, our guy goes to grab a bite alone. On the TV, the news reporter frantically announces that an S-rank monster named Tra has appeared. A hunter got there just in time, but she can barely buy enough time for people to escape. The brave hero holding the line alone is the B-rank Thunder Empress. After saving a civilian, Sparky holds her ground to cover the retreat. Facing an S-rank threat has her breaking a sweat, but the monster attacks before she can think. She leaps back and unleashes a massive wave of lightning. The beast goes completely silent. The reporter on scene excitedly declares that the Thunder Empress has actually won. The crowd goes wild with cheers, and Sparky celebrates her victory. But suddenly, a massive tentacle whips out of nowhere, sending her flying with a single devastating blow. That single hit completely knocks her out of commission. She spots the growth god's protection potion nearby, while the monster charges the helpless crowd, drinking it instantly. Once she drinks it, she is fully healed. Golden lightning surges through her body, packing enough raw power to shred anything. She unleashes 1 billion volts, completely vaporizing the S-rank beast. Afterwards, she gushes to the news cameras, saying she only won because of a special potion her master gave her. The clip quickly racks up 2 million views online. And yet, this viral superstar is sitting right here in his room, happily eating noodles. He awkwardly suggests she go home before her parents start to worry. Sparky looks down sadly. She says no one is waiting for her. He tries to comfort her, saying any parent would worry about a beautiful daughter, but she reveals they died in the dragon incident. That legendary dragon was a nightmare, costing humanity millions of lives to defeat. Realizing he put his foot in his mouth, he quickly offers her his own bowl of noodles. Her face instantly lights up with joy. Just then, his phone buzzed. A notification popped up, saying he has fully maxed out her affection and trust. Now he just needs her to say a specific keyword to activate faith. The phrase is, "Believe in the one God." He groans internally, thinking this is not some dating sim game. But wait, wouldn't activating faith give him loads of divine coins? With the threat of another ant swarm hanging over his head, he definitely needs all the coins he can get. He awkwardly asks Sparky to repeat the phrase, "Believe in the one God." The second the words leave his mouth, he drops to his knees in utter cringe, apologizing for being so weird. He begs her to ignore it, but Sparky happily declares she believes in the one God. His screen immediately flashes with a congratulatory message confirming her deep faith is now active. Boom! His first Earth follower is official, unlocking a broken skill-sharing feature. But is he happy? Nope, he's throwing a massive tantrum because this cheap mobile game won't give him any coins. He's literally ready to uninstall the app when Sparky just stares, completely lost. Suddenly, a portal pops open right behind her, and a bunch of tiny ants crawl out dragging actual treasure chests. They want a peace treaty, but our genius main character is completely clueless. He just wants to test a lightning spell. He raises his hand, hits Skillshare, and actually summons real thunder. Boom! The blast literally vaporizes his roof. Oh, and it completely fries those poor peace envoy ants to a crisp. But Sparky's eyes just light up. Wow, teacher, you can use lightning too? She thinks he's a god. Meanwhile, he's crying inside because he literally just paid to fix that roof. Over in the Ant Empire, however, the Ant Emperor hears his peace squad got nuked. Furious, the Bug King deploys his ultimate elite army to wipe out our main character. But back on Earth, Ilshin is just chilling, watching Sparky run laps. Priorities, right? Sparky crushes 100 laps, so he hands her a legendary growth god potion. To him, it's just a casual energy drink, but for her, it's a game-changing power-up. Since she's officially his student, he wants to help her grow, even if it's just with weird potions. When she asks for more, he casually orders squats while secretly using his god eye skill to inspect her. He hopes the appraisal will give him a cheat sheet for her training, but instead of a simple status window, the system alerts him that he's entered her deep subconscious mind. He lands in a massive, empty void. Suddenly, a blinding flash reveals a giant, majestic lightning tiger wrapped in heavy iron chains. This is Sparky's true inner power. She's actually an ultra-rare S-rank hunter, but her powers have been sealed for 10 years. His legendary finger skill cracked the seal, meaning breaking these chains unlocks her full potential. He immediately unleashes his finger skill on the chains, but only chips off a tiny piece. Realizing it's going to take a while, he taps out, says goodbye, and heads back to his house. Back home, he sighs at his wrecked roof. Suddenly, his phone buzzes. His divine stalkers are back. Creeping Nightmare is giving him puppy eyes, and all-slaying Heavenly Blade is glaring with pure salt. He's like, wait, is this guy the owner of that pathetic little fruit knife? The Blade God immediately rages, shouting that his weapon is a legendary divine sword, not a kitchen tool. These cosmic stalkers actually read his mind? This is getting ridiculous. Now, Creeping Nightmare is literally begging to be unblocked, while the Sword God demands his weapon back. Our main character gets absolutely triggered. He reminds them he almost died to secure that sword, so there's no way he's just handing it over for free. The Blade God negotiates, offering to return the Ant delegation's stolen peace bribe, a whopping 2.2 million divine coins. Our guy is furious at how crooked these gods are, but then, Creeping Nightmare flexes on him, offering a massive 10 million coins if he hands the sword over to them instead. Talk about an absolute bidding war. 10 million coins? He's completely sold. He could buy god-level items and endless training gear for Sparky. This bidding war has the Blade God sweating bullets. Creeping Nightmare literally calls the Blade God a broke beggar. Humiliated, the sword deity snaps and offers to give our hero his personal divine authority as well. Behold, zenith of the sword. The god claims that with this power, no swordsman on earth can touch him. And honestly, swords are every guy's ultimate fantasy, so he's totally down. Creeping nightmare laughs, counter-offering its own authority. Rose that blooms at night. It promises to casually crush any enemy without him lifting a single finger. Smelling profit, our greedy god novelist starts a bidding war between them. He walks away with both authorities, over 2 million coins, and 3 VIP passes to the sword god's treasury. He locks in the Night Rose skill too. Since the treasury access is limited to 3 tries, he decides to save it and test out his 2 flashy new powers first. He sits down, gets hyped, and screams the Rose skill name. Absolutely nothing happens. His phone casually chimed, explaining that the skill only activates when he's fast asleep. What kind of troll skill only works while you're snoring? He's completely speechless. How is he even supposed to know if it's working? He fell for that stalker's scam. Annoyed, he tries activating the sword god's skill next. Still, nothing. He is so incredibly triggered, he's practically constipated. But then, his phone suddenly buzzes with an activation alert. Suddenly, his body moves on its own. He starts babbling about slicing everything to pieces, while his tiny fruit knife starts glowing with a menacing, dark aura. He literally licks the blade like a total psycho, dashes straight to the restaurant next door, and frantically starts chopping 100,000 green onions like a madman. He drags himself home completely wiped out, cursing the sword god's mind control skill. At least no one got hurt. Soon, he falls into a very deep sleep. Right on cue, the angry ant army swarms his rooftop. But as they charge his sleeping body, a giant, terrifying rose sprouts from his chest and opens a massive maw. Nom! The rose eats them all in one bite. A voice echoes, "Tremble, mortals, your nightmare is here." The enemy leader gasps, recognizing it as the legendary calamity flower. This mythical plant once wiped out entire continents. But the smug mosquito general tries to play it cool, telling her bugs not to panic because they can win. She declares they're about to make history and dives straight in. The rest of the swarm joins the assault, but their attacks don't even leave a scratch on the cosmic weed. Gulp! The rose casually vacuums up the entire army. Terrified, the bug general screams that if she's going down, she's taking this absolute nightmare plant with her. She unleashes her absolute ultimate attack. But the rose just yawns and devours her grand move like a light snack. The mosquito is left completely dumbfounded. Crunch! The flower eats her too. The next morning, our sleeping beauty wakes up feeling strangely bloated. He checks his phone and sees his ant believers begging for immediate help. He activates his god eye to check on them, discovering the entire colony has been badly poisoned by a bee tribe. Did these idiots actually raid a beehive for honey? He literally starts Googling how to cure ant poisoning on his computer. But the game system intervenes, triggering a miracle option because of his genuine concern for them. Apparently, dropping miracles is what being a god is all about. Depending on his choice, his tiny subjects will either worship him or be completely terrified. The healing miracle costs 100,000 coins. He instantly clicks confirm, using a piece of the world tree power he previously absorbed to cast it. With that, they should be saved. Exhausted from his divine duties, he immediately passes out again. His phone pings, upgrading his benevolence rating from E to D rank. His title upgrades to Benevolent Savior, shifting his reputation from evil to neutral. Now, high-tier good gods are actually starting to notice our sleepy protagonist. Back in the miniature world, the poisoned ants are clinging to life, praying desperately for a savior. Suddenly, a single, glowing raindrop falls from the sky. A massive downpour follows, instantly washing the deadly toxins away. Overjoyed, the saint stands up, declaring that their god has saved them again and they must repay him. This dark tribe places their absolute faith in their god, preparing special offerings for him. After sleeping for who knows how long, our main character finally wakes up groggy. Surprisingly, Sparky is waiting at his apartment, and she scolds him for skipping training before asking about the weird statue on his table. He looks over. That hideous thing was actually crafted by the Dark Tribe, who tried to recreate their god with their most grateful hearts. The only problem? It is incredibly ugly. Completely speechless, he asks what that monstrosity is, but Sparky smiles, claiming the statue looks exactly like him, getting more and more handsome the longer you look at it. She even asks if she can take the hideous thing home. He tells her to do whatever she wants. After finally sending her away, he gets ready to watch some wholesome videos, but suddenly his phone alerts him that his world tree sapling is critically sick and will wither in 24 hours. He desperately uses the growth god protection, but it fails completely. This tree is crucial, since its fruit healed him back when he was injured. Basically, saving it means he can sell those legendary fruits for serious cash. After scrolling through the divine shop for ages, he finally spots a miracle item called the Tears of Endless Abundance. But only players certified as good by the goddess can use it, and buying it triggers a special quest. Cut to moments later, and he is out on the street picking up trash just to save his precious tree. Yes, he is actually doing community service for a video game. After hours of cleaning, his goodwill rating only goes up by 1%. With 99% left to go, a loud voice suddenly interrupts him, demanding to know what he is doing on their turf. He turns to see a massive, muscular, homeless man. Knowing how protective they can be of their spots, our main character quickly decides to play it safe and pulls out a single dollar bill to hand over. Seeing this, the man explodes in anger, yelling that no one dares give cheap charity to the great Choi Gangan. It suddenly clicks. This guy is a legendary S-rank hunter who originally started out as a garbage collector. Choi Gangan snatches the single dollar anyway, saying he will accept the sincere gesture. Our main character looks at his phone, completely confused. He just helped a guy, so why did his goodwill score not budge? He watches the old man chugging cheap alcohol, realizing he just gave money to a hopeless drunk. No wonder the system did not count it. Losing his patience, he calls him a useless grandpa. Choi Gangan snaps, furiously asking who he is calling grandpa. Panicking, our main character quickly pulls out a plastic bag and politely asks him to put the empty bottle inside, calling him Big Brother instead. Hearing the words Big Brother, Choi Gangan immediately lights up with pure joy. But right then, a loud emergency siren echoes through the streets. A monster has breached the area, and he instantly tries to run away, but the S-rank hunter grabs him. With a single massive leap, they soar into the sky. Once he opens his eyes and looks down, he nearly passes out from pure terror. They land hard near an abandoned factory. By this time, our poor main character has completely passed out, collapsing onto the dirt the second the hunter lets go. Right in front of them stands a gargantuan toad monster. Choi Gangan grins, muttering that toad legs will make the perfect snack for his drinks tonight. He charges straight at the beast, but right then, our main character's system alerts him that an extreme killing intent has been detected near its owner. Suddenly, the terrifying nightmare flower bursts right out of his body. It opens its gargantuan mouth, lunging to swallow both the toad monster and Choi Gangan. In a split second, the flower gulps them down in a single bite. Meanwhile, our main character suddenly wakes up inside a mysterious, misty forest. He stands up, only to find a strange figure wearing white robes standing right in front of him. Stuttering, he steps forward to ask where they are. The figure removes their hood and kneels, welcoming back their great, merciful god. As he stands there completely frozen in shock, cracks suddenly shatter the entire illusion. Returning to reality, he is greeted by the sight of Choi Gangan lying on the ground, covered in disgusting slime. The S-rank hunter is crying for his mommy, absolutely terrified, after being eaten by a giant plant. Our main character plugs his nose, wondering why it smells like a literal sewer. Just then, his phone buzzes with a notification. He has defeated a subordinate of the evil god, saving the planet and easily completing the goodwill quest. As a reward, he receives the miraculous Tears of Endless Abundance. He uses them immediately, activating the magic to heal his dying world, Tree Sapling. He grins from ear to ear, imagining the fortune he will make selling its legendary fruits. The system congratulates him on saving the tree, noting he has laid the foundation for the Dark Tribe's grand revival. To show their gratitude, the Dark Tribe sends him another custom statue of their god. After dropping the traumatized S-rank hunter off at the hospital, our guy heads home. Looking at her, the new statue on his table, he is left completely speechless. How does this monstrosity look anything like him? But then, a notification explains that because of the resemblance, his empathy rate with ants in the dark world has surged to 10%. Suddenly, a message flashes across his screen, addressing him as their great and merciful god. He stares at his phone, never expecting to be texting with actual bugs. Another desperate text pops up, begging him to save their dying tribe from a sudden monster raid. He looks at the tiny ants shivering in fear on his screen, scattered across the dirt. Furious, he demands to know who did this to them. He orders them to lead him to the monsters so he can crush them himself. Hearing their god's angry voice, the tiny ants burst into emotional tears. He tells them to show the way, but because they are literal bugs, they move at a snail's pace. Eventually, they stop, staring ahead in absolute horror. He quickly zooms in his camera to see what has them so terrified, and instantly freezes. It is a massive, crawling wave of cockroaches. These pests have a special trait, doubling in size every single hour. Without wasting a second, he turns around and books it. The guide ants lose their minds, seeing their god flee, desperately trying to escape. However, the saintess begs them not to panic, pointing behind them and shouting that their protective god is right there with them. But when she turns to look, she sees him sprinting away in the distance. The saintess cannot believe her own eyes. The other ants watch their god running for his life and scream in pure despair, realizing they are totally doomed. But cut to moments later, and he is staring at a massive pile of dead roaches. Fortunately, because he absolutely despises bugs, he had stockpiled a ton of powerful insect poison at home. While the ants clean up the battlefield, making sure to squash any roaches still clinging to life, he notices the saintess looking incredibly depressed. Confused, he asks why she is sad since they successfully drove the monsters back. Hearing his voice, the saintess bursts into dramatic tears, crying that she dared to doubt his ultimate plan. She begs him to execute her for being an unworthy servant. He is about to comfort the poor girl when his phone screen suddenly flashes with a new system alert. He has met the secret conditions to unlock a unique divine skill, the divine thumb of multiplication. He quickly taps to claim it, reading the dramatic description that is just as embarrassingly edgy as usual. Just as he is preparing to test out his new overpowered scaling skill, a notification pops up from his online dating match, asking to meet up in real life. But when he finally arrives, he is horrified to discover that his cute date is actually a grown man. Completely speechless, he decides to eat as much free food as possible, and then bolt. But the guy keeps staring intensely, asking when they are getting married. Our main character stammers, frantically trying to lie his way out of this. The man slams his hand on the table, calling him an absolute scumbag who was just playing with him. Just as he prepares to make a run for it, his phone starts buzzing. A new alert warns that more monsters are attacking the Dark Tribe, asking if he wants to multiply his loyal ant army. He instantly taps the option to duplicate them. Annoyed that he is playing a mobile game mid-argument, the angry date stands up and slaps him hard across the face. Meanwhile, back in the tiny ant world, they prepare for war. The saintess stands tall on a cliff with her hands raised, shouting to the heavens that they will crush every single beast in the name of their god. Moments later, his screen flashes with victory. He has defeated the god of destruction's minions, earning a whopping 300 million divine coins. At this moment, we see him walking alone down the street. He protected his dignity, but at what cost? His phone buzzes with a wild notification. Endless Abundance wants to sponsor him as a benevolent savior. Now, our god-level main character can pick any broken ability he wants, completely free of charge. Since it is a freebie, he naturally chooses the absolute most expensive option available. He selects Heaven and Earth Creation, a supreme moon god power, with an absurd price tag of a 1 followed by 100,000 zeros. But his phone immediately hits him with a reality check. He is way too weak to handle this power, so the system has to adapt it. The system downgrades it to a single use of false Heaven and Earth Creation. He activates it, and the entire world instantly shifts. That night, something absolutely wild happens. Everyone looks up at the night sky in total shock. A brand new second moon has literally spawned next to the old one. Meanwhile, our hero, completely wasted on cheap booze, passes out. Next morning, nursing a massive hangover, he sits on the steps to train Sparky. The cute tiger finishes 500 laps in just 5 minutes. Next, he orders her to do a plank. This lets him enter her mindscape again. Telling her to freeze, he activates the blind god eye. Inside her consciousness, the giant lightning tiger finally lets its guard down around him. He uses his divine index finger to smash the ceiling chains. He snaps a bunch of them, and the giant beast happily licks his face. Back in reality, he tells Sparky to test her power. The results are awesome. Sparky cheers, realizing this bizarre training actually works wonders. She happily runs off to do another 200 laps to finish up, but then his phone buzzes. The ant saint wants a proper name. Honestly, calling her Saint Tess all the time is pretty lazy. It is time for an upgrade. He decides that her new name will be Little White. Hearing this, the ant saint literally cries tears of pure joy. Suddenly, hundreds of other ants demand names too, but naming an entire army would take him forever. So, being the lazy genius he is, he just numbers them. Number 1, number 2, number 3. You get the idea. Later at home, his phone alerts him that they have evolved. Thanks to their new names and hunting experience, they are now the Jami tribe. They look super adorable. And because his pet tribe evolved, our god-level main character reaches level 2. This level up unlocks Civilization Renaissance. With a few clicks, he builds them walls, training camps, and farms. Little White immediately rallies the crowd, shouting, "Look at the miracle of our great god. Let us worship him." Honestly, he finds these tiny ants more lovable by the second. Next, he clicks on a mysterious question mark option. Suddenly, an ominous tower, overflowing with dark energy spawns. The Tower of Warriors. It is a high-risk challenge requiring extreme courage. The system warning notes that the survival rate is a brutal 1 in 10,000. The poor ants completely panic at the sight of it. To stop them from doing anything stupid, he breaks their own walls to block the entrance. He strictly warns his little bugs never to sneak inside. But as the crowd disperses, one lone ant stares at its tiny hands. It remembers all the times they were helpless. If only I was stronger, I could protect everyone. It looks up at the forbidden tower, making a silent vow. Meanwhile, over at the Ant Empire, the Emperor is absolutely furious. His useless cockroach army failed to take down the Dark Tribe's god. Enraged, the Ant Emperor raises his hand and crushes his cockroach general in a single blow, screaming in anger. Are all my soldiers this pathetic? Do I have to do everything myself? Suddenly, a sly voice speaks up, telling him to calm down, as a creepy spider spirit slithers forward. Leave this garbage to me, Your Highness. Just focus on your ascension to the god realm. I will personally wipe out those Dark Tribe bugs and their so-called god. Even if it costs my life. Cut to a terrifying mosquito king. One bite from this beast can literally suck a zombie bone dry, which it just finished doing when someone approaches from the shadows. It is the spider spirit. She hands over a deadly weapon called the Cursed Needle, ordering the mosquito to assassinate the Dark Tribe's god. The massive bug laughs, whispering, "I cannot wait to taste a god's blood." She shrugs, telling it to do whatever. As the mosquito equips the Cursed Needle, it secretly plots a massive betrayal. Once I drain him and steal his power, I will overthrow the Emperor and rule. Meanwhile, back in the real world, Ilshin is busy raging at his online teammates. He channels 20 years of single-life keyboard speed to aggressively defend his mother's honor. The keys are literally smoking. Once the roast session ends, he checks up on his ants. They are all fast asleep. Well, almost all of them. He spots a small pebble shaking. Suddenly, a tiny ant lifts a massive boulder many times its own size. It is number 1, working out in secret to protect his family. Finding this incredibly wholesome, our main character decides to gift the little guy a bottle of growth god protection. The ant is so overwhelmed with joy it can barely speak. Our hero goes right back to raging at his computer, totally clueless that a giant mosquito is watching him through the window. After plotting, the deadly bug sneaks inside and lands right on his forehead, biting him. He slaps it away, complaining about getting bitten when winter is literally right around the corner. Suddenly, a freezing chill runs down his spine like he fell into ice. He lets out a massive sneeze, shooting out an 8-meter stream of snot. Gross. He runs to the bathroom to clean up. Looking in the mirror, he is shocked to see an ugly demon mark on his forehead. His blind god eye reveals it is a plague curse, slowly freezing him to death. What on earth is this? Honestly, he has no time for this. His teammates are still roasting his parents. But then, a fever, muscle aches, and anemia curse hit him all at once. Panicking, he frantically searches the cash shop and finds a healing pill. But the moment he tries to buy it, a stupid quest blocks him. Desperate, he decides to just crawl to the hospital. Meanwhile, inside the hospital, a suspicious-looking guy is sneaking around. He is a brainwashed cultist serving an evil god, and he is here to commit a suicide attack as a dark sacrifice. Our poor main character finally drags himself to the entrance. He is literally crawling on the floor like a worm, and the system's ridiculous new quest is not helping at all. It demands he save 100 people with pure devotion to unlock the cure. He would honestly rather just die. Suddenly, inside the lobby, the crazy cultist grabs a nurse hostage, waving a bomb detonator and shouting at everyone to freeze. Sparky is already there, ready to pounce. Our sick hero watches this madness in utter confusion. The cultist spots the glowing demon mark on his forehead and thinks they are partners in crime. He happily yells at him to help blow the place up for their dark lord. Hearing this, Sparky roars in anger, telling the bomber he has the wrong guy because that's her master. But the bald cultist points at his forehead, arguing, "That skull mark is our cult symbol. I can feel his dark aura. He is definitely a secret agent sent by our boss." Our hero sighs, activating blind god eye to read his mind. He sees a creepy, purple-haired guy ordering the cultist to spread terror before blowing everyone up as a sacrifice to summon their god of destruction. This is getting seriously dangerous. The crazy bald guy screams a final prayer to his dark god, his thumb coming down on the detonator button. Seeing this, our desperate hero quickly points his finger, unleashing his legendary, all-crushing divine index finger. But the cultist has already clicked the button. Exhausted and out of options, he screams at Sparky to do it now. This is the moment. The bald guy stares at his detonator in absolute disbelief. No boom. Next second, with pure terror painted on his face, Sparky's divine lightning strikes without mercy. He gets fried so hard he completely loses control of his bladder right there. He collapses onto the ground, totally knocked out. Before losing consciousness, a dark voice echoes in his mind, activating the necrosis curse. Days pass, and he wakes up in a massive, empty void. He wanders for ages until a voice speaks. Newly born, infant God, you actually made me intervene. Prepare to experience infinite death and agony. Just then, massive demons standing hundreds of feet tall suddenly tower over him. As he freezes in shock, the nightmare flower sprouts behind them. It literally swallows those giant bullies in a single bite. Mission complete. Congratulations on exceeding the survival requirements by saving others. The master of the medicine book loves your good deeds. You received Hatata's miracle pill. Our guy wakes up days later, feeling something odd in his mouth. He chews. Instantly, all his injuries are totally healed. As a bonus reward, some of that entity's divine power merges directly into his body. Meanwhile, Sparky gets mobbed by fans wanting autographs. He uses the chaos to slip away, head home, and flop onto bed, amazed by how well that miracle pill works. Suddenly, his phone buzzes. Number 1 is begging for the One God's help. The screen reads, "One God, sorry to bother you. Can you send more of the medicine you gave me before?" He sits right up, asking, "What happened?" Cut to number 1, shaking on the floor. This long-haired guy thinks he has to survive his trial to protect his tribe. The door slowly creaks open, letting in light. Looking determined, he scopes out the place. Now, Ilho enters the Tower of Heroes' first floor, known as the Trial of the Rock. Clear rules, folks. Beat this level to unlock the second floor. Plus, thanks to Ilshin's special drink, he levels up and becomes a soldier. Our hero is super hyped and confident. But out of nowhere, a massive boulder smashes him head-on, sending him rolling down the stairs. Flat under a giant rock, he groans in pure agony. Crying, he calls out for Ilshin. Completely wrecked, he just lies there. Watching this, Ilshin feels pretty worried. The kid got squashed like an ant. Is he okay? A screen pops up warning that only 10 minutes remain for Ilho's session. Panicking, our main character tries to activate divine growth, but it does not work out at all. Only 7 seconds left. Suddenly, he gets a brain blast. He still has the Master of the Blue Sky reward. With that, he drops 100 coins to buy the unique skill, God's Divine Healing. A pop-up asks him to confirm, and with just 3 seconds on the clock, Ilshin hits buy. A brilliant green aura flows over the injured hero, and instantly, his strength returns, and he pushes himself up. Ilho blinks, looking around. In tears, he stares at Ilshin with puppy dog eyes. But Ilshin just scolds him, reminding him he literally warned him to stay out of this death trap. He tells him to get out, but the door is locked tight. A system message says, "No escape until floor 50. Auntie panics, asking what on earth they should do. A store recommendation for the tower pops up, and our guy realizes his wallet is about to cry. Suddenly, a loud knock sounds at the door. Ilshin chugs a quick potion and tells Ilho he will be right back. He goes to answer it, cracking it open just a bit, only to see a strange man in a sharp suit. The guy asks if he is indeed the hunter Ilshin. He introduces himself as Kim Taman, a recruiter for the Brilliant Guild, asking for a quick chat. Slightly suspicious, the kid lets him in. Meanwhile, back in the tower, our hero is grinding hard. He is taking every single brutal challenge head-on with absolute grit. The crystal at the top of the stairs flashes a menacing crimson. Ilho closes his eyes, focusing every bit of focus. Right on cue, another giant boulder rolls down at him. But this time, he winds up an epic punch, shattering the massive rock with his bare fist. Even he is shocked by his own strength. A screen announces that Challenger Ilho has passed the trial of the rock, granting him its unique blessing. Not bad. Meanwhile, back in reality, Ilshin gets hit with a crazy contract offer of $3 million a year. The recruiter wants him to come to the guild office to sign, but the kid is completely speechless. He is frozen in sheer shock. With that much cash, he could easily wipe out his debts, buy delicious food, and spoil his nephew rotten. He is so daydream hyped he completely misses the part where all monster loot gets split 70-30 in their favor. The recruiter asks if he is even paying attention. Snapping out of it, the kid apologizes, but then a system notification highlights his guest. It is Kim Taman, 34 years old, possessing highly suspicious abilities. Kim claims he won't find a better deal anywhere else, but our main character realizes this guy is trying to scam him, and he gets seriously annoyed. Even though this recruiter is massive compared to him, making a fight super risky, Kim asks if there is a problem, and the kid just tells him that he has been super busy lately, so he is going to pass on the offer. In a creepy, threatening tone, Kim asks if he dislikes the terms, trying to push him into signing anyway. His publishing income is not even a fraction of this contract. Ilshin politely explains he does not do this for money. Kim apologizes, but as he stands up, the massive recruiter drops the nice guy act. His boss ordered him to bring Ilshin in, dead or alive. To escape, The kid makes up a classic excuse about needing the bathroom while adjusting his glasses. Kim is clearly not buying it, but lets him go anyway. Rushing into the restroom, the kid panics, trying to think of a plan. That is when he remembers Kim's system profile. This dude is literally labeled a god of destruction. Then it clicks. The crazy terrorist at the hospital had the exact same title. Staring at his phone, our main character wonders who to call. Should he try the Hunter Association? Or maybe the police? Suddenly, a blazing beam of light blasts straight through the door. Kim steps right through the smoking hole, asking who he is calling. The kid is absolutely terrified, realizing he is completely cornered. With a dark, menacing glare, Kim demands to know who is on the other line. Stammering for an excuse, our main character squeaks out that he was just reaching his editor. But before he can move, a blast of energy erupts from Kim, slamming him straight into the solid wall. The giant approaches, telling him he is not calling anyone. He says it is much easier to just knock him cold and drag him out. He wraps his massive hand around Ilshin's neck, squeezing the absolute life out of him. Kim mocks him, asking if it hurts, saying he should have just cooperated from the start to avoid all this painful drama. Our poor hero starts fading fast, but a flashing screen snaps him back to focus. He just got a new quest: save Sunung Miri from certain death. Meanwhile, Kim is totally surprised by how tough this kid is. Honestly, Ilshin knows he is completely outclassed in physical strength, but suddenly, the words "Great God" flash in his eyes, and Ilho begins to yell that he is lending him his strength through power sharing. The guy from the Kayami clan shares his steel body passive, instantly boosting our main character's defense to the max. A super buff and insanely durable, and with Kim's hand still choking him, he realizes he has copied Ilho's legendary stats. The giant senses a sudden shift in the kid, and just like that, the shockwave forces Kim's hand away. This guy realizes this skill builds pure muscle, proving our boy is actually worth the guild leader's attention. Now, Kim begins to mock the weak mission, admitting he was totally wrong. He declares he is officially done playing games and is taking the kid right now, signaling with his hand for things to start. The signal is given. Ilshin charges immediately, throwing wild strikes. The giant barely dodges, realizing this kid packs a massive punch, though he is attacking blindly with absolutely zero thought of defending himself. It is obvious he is a complete amateur, which honestly bores Kim. But wait, our boy suddenly grabs the giant's head with both hands and just squeezes, landing a brutal smash. Teeth go flying everywhere as the big guy doubles over in agonizing pain. But Ilshin is just getting started. He charges up another massive strike, aiming directly at the giant. Boom! The impact literally pulverizes the floor itself. Wrapped in his active skill, our hero looks around the wreckage, but suddenly remembers he urgently needs to call Mary. Desperation kicks in. He tries everything until a system prompt pops up. The believer management system is active, but locating her costs a ton of coins. Obviously, he does not care and pays up. The moment the coins drop, the tracker pinpoints Sun Miri's location. We see her pale face and long dark hair, while a blood-stained sword stands nearby. Proof of a brutal fight. Red liquid drips slowly from the blade. It is the infamous sword demon, chillingly telling his victim she will not feel a single thing. Just then, his target profile flashes on screen, and Miri lies defeated on the ground, desperately calling him teacher. The demon raises his cold blade, followed by a sickening slash. Next, an achievement notification suddenly pops up. Our hero realizes Miri just got wrecked by some random boss, and a warning predicts a dark, tragic future for her. It has not happened yet, but the timer is ticking down. The clock is running out. The system asks if he wants to change her destiny using divine power. Scanning the details of her attacker, Ilshin notices something weird. This guy is absolutely obsessed with swords. Thinking fast, he runs to his desk and pulls out a tiny butter knife from his drawer, spending 100,000 coins to rewrite her fate. That triggers a miracle by combining his savior and second chance skills. A blinding flash of light erupts right in front of him. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking for her. Miri is cornered on the dirt as the villain closes in. She begs to know why he is doing this, but he calmly explains it is nothing personal, just business. His eyes are dead cold, but suddenly he senses danger. With insane reflexes, he leaps backward just in time, barely dodging a stealth attack that almost took his head off. Out of the shadows, our boy appears with pure rage in his eyes, murmuring about wanting to slice things. Miri gasps, recognizing him instantly, but his voice sounds terrifyingly sinister as he promises to chop this demon into tiny pieces. Now, this villain has slain countless warriors in his lifetime. He raises his weapon, asking if Ilshin is with the storm. He is confident because his swordplay has crushed the strongest hunters alive. But looking at this new challenger, he is confused. Why are his eyes glowing red, and why is he holding a literal butter knife? The demon prepares his stance, keeping a sharp eye on him, laughing inside at the sheer absurdity. A butter knife? He will not even need to try. The blade flashes right past Ilshin's neck in a violet blur. The demon thinks simply surviving this is a win for the kid. But our hero just smirks. And here is where things get wild. Gripping his tiny kitchen tool, he blocks the demon's legendary blade effortlessly. The atmosphere freezes, and the villain is losing his mind. He realizes he severely miscalculated. Still, his strikes can cut solid rock like warm butter, so there is no way this next blow gets blocked. He unleashes his full power. Clang. Our boy parries it with zero effort, sending the shockwave crashing into the wall behind them. The demon is sweating now, desperately spamming attacks just to get one hit, but our hero just repeats his creepy line about wanting to slice everything, casually blocking every single strike. The demon senses the storm power, but finds it highly suspicious. He is not even registered with the Hunter Association. No wonder he has never heard of him. Realizing he is outmatched, the villain pulls out a mysterious glowing vial, time for his secret stash. He downs the liquid, confident this power-up will end the battle in one quick strike. But, as the potion kicks in, his body begins to mutate. His eyes go completely blank, his muscles swell up, and he lets out a feral scream. A strange mark forms on his face as he readies his weapon for the final round. Ilshin remains completely unfazed, still chanting his favorite line about slicing. The mutated demon charges forward like a madman, his dead eyes burning with dark purple energy. He unleashes a hyperspeed storm of slashes, but right through the chaos, our boy slides in with his butter knife, aiming directly for the monster's throat. But just as it connects, the villain instantly teleports away. Glowing footprints light up behind our hero, and suddenly, the demon is descending from the sky, ready to split him in half. Boom! The entire room shakes from the impact. The demon lands safely, totally convinced he finally crushed our nameless hero. Honestly, he is actually proud of the fight. Then, clink. His legendary sword shatters in half. As he stares in utter horror at his broken weapon, a quiet laugh echoes through the dust. He looks up in disbelief. Our boy is still standing, completely unharmed, muttering that same creepy line. The demon's jaw drops because our hero's neck is literally twisted backward, yet he acts like nothing happened. With a sickening crack, his head snaps right back into place. He stumbles slightly, recovering his balance, and gently raises the butter knife. The villain has no idea what is coming. A brilliant blue flash streaks across the room. Instantly, the demon realizes he is dead. A cage of light beams pierces through his body from every single direction. But wait, he is actually still alive. Confused, he checks his body, realizing there is not a single scratch on him. With that level of power, he should be dust. Why did he spare him? Desperate for answers, the demon demands to know his identity. Ilshin slowly raises his little knife and declares himself to be the absolute sword god. The villain is stunned. That legendary title belongs only to the absolute peak of martial arts. But just as the hype peaks, the skill timer runs out, and Ilshin's powers completely vanish. The mighty butter knife goes back to being a normal utensil. Luckily, the demon is too starstruck to notice and bows down in total defeat. Our hero is totally dumbfounded by this reaction. The demon literally starts begging to witness the god's divine swordsmanship again, officially becoming his second brainwashed disciple. Amidst all this weird drama, Miri groans in pain, reminding our boy of his actual mission. The new disciple rushes to her side, pouring a premium recovery potion straight down her throat. This high-grade elixir acts like an extra life, instantly restoring her vitality as golden light heals her body. The demon starts bowing, begging forgiveness for his earlier disrespect. All right, you and I can celebrate, because the rescue mission is a success, boosting Miri's trust to 139. But our hero is exhausted from all these bugs and random events. The disciple promises she will recover, but Ilshin demands to know who hurt her in the first place, leaving the terrified man begging for mercy. Cleanse his sins by cutting him open. But then Ilshin remembers this demon guy was actually chilling with that terrorist guild. So, he asks his new underling how strong he actually is, and tells him to go wipe out that entire guild. The demon is totally stunned by the command, but Ilshin just hits him with a classic, "Are you disobeying your master?" Look. Staring back at his god, the assassin bows deeply, claiming he will happily carry out the mission. Honestly though, to Ilshin, this guy is just a disposable mercenary. He literally does not care if the guy dies, as long as he absolutely wrecks that terrorist group. The plan is set, the demon is heading to war, and our main character has finally unlocked the conditions to activate that crazy new power he just got. He can now use the thumb of the multiplication god, which only costs 100 coins. Ilshin gets super hyped, thinking this is his ticket to instant wealth, and immediately activates it. Here we go. Later that night, the lights are burning in his room. Ilshin is frantically tearing through his drawers, desperately searching for some emergency cash he knows he hid somewhere. But when he shakes his piggy bank, only a single 10-cent coin rolls out. Talk about tragic. Still, it is enough to trigger the skill. He uses it, and absolutely nothing. Turns out, this god power does not actually work on inanimate objects. If it only multiplies people, then this skill is basically garbage to him. Reading the chat comments on his screen, our boy realizes he cannot just sit around waiting to get jumped. He needs to strike first and dominate. So, he asks his viewers what he should do to level up his strength. Some tell him to play the long game, while others want him to go full villain mode with the celestial sword. Rubbing his chin, our guy weighs his options. Then, boom, the perfect plan hits him. Why not do both? He hops right into the god creation zone, targets his tiny ants, and unleashes that multiplication skill on them. And just like that, because he now has a massive army of millions, he orders them to destroy his rivals. This giant ant swarm begins marching toward the enemy lines, with a 24-hour timer starting. But looking closer, Ilshin spots something super weird on the screen. An ant is actually healing a tiny comrade. Suddenly, the healer senses his divine presence and starts preaching about faith in their one true God, promising them his eternal protection. Since his following is exploding, his positive karma is going through the roof. But right then, his phone starts buzzing like crazy with an incoming call from his editor. As soon as he picks up, the guy screams, demanding to know where the manuscript is. The editor rants about how he literally begged the director not to cancel the contract. He screams that the series just launched, yet this crazy kid is already asking for a hiatus. This stressful call makes Ilshin think, what if he uses that multiplication skill on himself? With nothing left to lose, he decides to make a clone. Pressing his thumb against his forehead, he activates the ability. Instantly, crimson energy swirls around the room, filling it with thick smoke. As the haze clears, a figure starts to materialize. A literal clone stands before him, and the skill goes on cooldown. Ilshin is absolutely thrilled. His crazy plan actually worked, meaning he can finally make his double do all his drawing work. But before he can even finish that thought, whack! A brutal slap sends him spinning. The clone glares, telling him to shut up, and hurls a bunch of insults. When Ilshin tries to argue, the clone just beats him down again. After leaving him bruised and broken, the copy sighs, feeling refreshed. Meanwhile, the phone is still active, with the editor yelling, asking if this is some kind of joke. With zero hesitation, the clone snatches the phone, tells the boss to get lost, and equips his assassin skill with a terrifying grin. He stares down his creator, looking ready to finish the job, and sends a shockwave blasting into the screen. Meanwhile, on the ants' battleground, a massive beast appears. It is absolutely humongous compared to those terrified little ants, closing the distance in seconds. The colony realizes that even with their massive numbers, they do not stand a chance against this thing. With glowing crimson eyes, the giant beast tells them to pray. But before it can do anything, a strange light flashes in the sky. The beam shoots down, instantly, vaporizing the monsters. The ants are left totally speechless. This absolute slaughter instantly promotes the assassin class to rank C. One of the surviving monsters mutters in fear, saying this must be that legendary evil spirit. Meanwhile, in another location, a heavy fist slams down on a table. A one-armed monster begs for forgiveness, reporting that their entire army was completely wiped out. The female commander, sporting monstrous body parts, stands up. She demands to know if they honestly expect her to believe a single entity did this. The soldier explains that this foe looked like an absolute devil, but before he can finish, he is instantly turned to ash, leaving nothing behind. She demands to notify the king, but is told he is currently busy at a ceremony, so she orders them to call the generals and the 10 swords. But her advisor warns that this will leave them wide open to rival demons. Hyona snaps, saying the Black Tribe is their priority, commanding them to bring back this entity's head before the king gets back. A winged soldier steps up, begging Arachne for the mission, promising to deliver that head personally. Back to our main character, whose face is looking completely swollen and bruised. He finally wakes up groggy, wondering what hit him, before remembering his own clone absolutely wrecked him. Suddenly, his phone pings with a tracker showing where his runaway clone went. He also notices 121 missed calls and frantic text alerts. It is his furious editor warning him that things are about to get ugly if he keeps dodging him. Right after, notifications of his clone's insane achievements start flooding his screen, but Ilshin just sighs. It is all meaningless when his real life is currently in absolute shambles because of this stupid game. Sure, his virtual empire is thriving, but his actual existence is a complete disaster. His webtoon deadline is literally today, and if he fails to deliver, his contract gets cancelled, forcing him to pay back the huge advance. Panicking and trying to make up for lost time, he starts typing like mad, but another screen pops up. A new quest to rescue his followers has appeared. If he saves his loyal sword demon, his unique talents will grow. Desperately trying to focus on his work, Ilshin tries to ignore it, but a blinding blue light begins pulsing through his room. The alert is flashing so intensely that it forces open a direct point-of-view sync with his captive follower, the sword demon. The scene shifts to show the demon bound in chains, as a dangerous-looking woman asks him if the cat got his tongue. She commands him to start talking. This interrogator is the Immaculate One, a 26-year-old fire mage blessed by the god of destruction. Grabbing him by the hair, she promises him a painless death if he confesses right now. It seems the loyal sword demon actually raided the guild just like Ilshin ordered, but got overwhelmed and captured. Our main character also spots another figure standing nearby, a massive, muscular thug glaring with pure hostility. This beast is Ironhead, a 31-year-old heavy hitter from the guild. The poor sword demon looks completely beaten down and bloody. Ilshin activates his omnipresence skill to get closer. We see a flashback of the demon, sold to the underworld as a child, trained to become a ruthless killer. After unlocking his martial arts, he executed countless targets in secret, eventually crossing paths with his current captors during training. They naturally became bitter rivals. Knowing he could never live a normal life with normal dreams, the young assassin chose to completely lose himself in the way of the blade, aiming to reach the absolute peak of martial power. But realizing his journey might end right here, in this dark cell, fills him with deep regret. Meanwhile, Ironhead barks that the punishment for traitors, betrayal means death. As he stretches, he warns that if the Immaculate gets in his way, she is next. Meanwhile, grabbed by his hair, the sword demon desperately begs his god for mercy, forgiveness. Watching this absolute chaos, you and I can see Ilshin is in deep trouble. But he has to save his people, triggering his body-sharing skill with his giant follower, Ilho. Ironhead winds up a lethal blow to finish the sword demon, but right as he strikes, poof, the kid vanishes. Ilshin teleports in at the absolute perfect second to save his follower. Life. He has zero time for introductions. Instead, he combines Miri's wild lightning powers with Ilho's massive, muscular frame. Stacking these skills together is his only real shot at winning. But wait, a system warning flashes. Skill overload. He cannot handle sharing powers from two followers who are way stronger than him. And now, the recoil is about to hit. The overload wreaks havoc on his body, leaving him writhing in pain. Smirking at the opening, Ironhead charges in and unleashes a brutal kick. It connects directly with the kid's head, but Ironhead's smug face instantly shatters. His leg hurts like crazy, like he just kicked solid steel. Turns out, our main character survived the overload by using his rigid body skill. Even with that defense, Ilshin is shaking. That was way too close to death. Meanwhile, the Immaculate tries to wake her knocked-out ally, but gets nothing. Glaring at him with pure hatred, she screams, "How dare you!" Taking a deep breath, she exhales a massive, roaring torrent of fire straight at him. Terrified, Ilshin wonders if this is where he finally dies. But wait, he is totally fine. Thanks to Ilho's solid defensive skill, the raging fire feels like a cozy, warm bath. On the other hand, she is completely drained. She thinks she cooked him, but she is in for a rude awakening. His defensive skill absorbed every single drop of damage. Right now, Ilshin is so glad he treated Ilho well. Stubborn as ever, she shoots another wave of fire. But with his insane heat resistance, he shrugs it off, walks right through the flames, and gets right in her face. Boom, he punches her. Right then, the skill timer runs out. With the rescue complete, a message says his talent has blossomed. He starts hoping this finally makes him a great writer, but the hype instantly dies. He feels absolutely zero change. However, the rescued sword demon is practically crying with gratitude, looking at his savior with eyes full of pure, intense worship. It is so overwhelming that Ilshin gets super awkward and begs him to chill. Besides, he needs to rush home and start writing. But suddenly, a creepy noise echoes nearby. A creepy voice calls out, praising his skills. Clapping slowly, a stranger walks up, saying it is a pleasure to meet him. The sword demon immediately warns him to watch out. Out steps a completely naked man, claiming he finally found the guy behind this mess. This 29-year-old is actually the Apostle of Destruction, the one handling all those human sacrifices. Looking at this streaking weirdo, Ilshin has only one thought. This guy is a total pervert. But the shameless Apostle does not care, introducing himself and saying it is an honor. Checking the system status page on this guy, Ilshin shivers. He needs to tread very carefully here. But then, he notices the creepy naked man is actually shedding tears. Spreading his arms wide, the weeping apostle creeps closer, claiming he found a kindred soul. But an arm suddenly blocks him. The sword demon steps in, telling him to back off. The apostle's face turns deadly serious. With a casual backhand, he calls the demon a mere bug. The slap is so ridiculously powerful, it sends the sword demon flying back instantly. Crashing hard into a distant wall, he is out. Ilshin is stunned. Defeating the sword demon that easily? Insane. The naked guy then demands to know which god Ilshin serves. Muttering to himself, Ilshin lunges forward with a fist raised. He activates his sharing skill once more, borrowing the pure, crackling power of lightning to smash this weirdo. The apostle's eyes widen in genuine shock. Meanwhile, far from this chaotic battle, that weird bug monster flies away from the meeting room, plotting his next move. He plans to slaughter the followers of this new deity. Kill the followers, drain the god's power. Simple. Elsewhere, in a peaceful, sun-drenched village, life goes on as normal. An elder warns the village kids to stay out of the deep woods. But suddenly, he spots a terrifying figure in the sky, his face freezing in pure horror as it descends. The winged monster lands right in the village of the Black Tribe with a single, brutal mission. Activating his deadly poison skill, he prepares to wipe them all out. If they die, the god weakens. Back at the fight, Ilshin connects a heavy punch right to the naked apostle's face, sending him flying backward before he can even react. Boom! He crashes hard into the dirt. Ilshin thinks he won with one shot. But wait, the creepy guy is still moving. Like a literal zombie, he slowly starts dragging himself back up. Screaming like a demon, he rises. But Ilshin immediately blasts him with another lightning strike, slamming him down hard. Yet, the naked guy just pops right back up again. This lightning is doing nothing. Is this naked weirdo immortal? Despite his face being covered in severe burn marks, the apostle bragged that he can regenerate from literally anything. Now, here is the crazy part. Our boy is in a massive bind. His defense wore off, lightning is totally useless, and even if it worked, this guy just heals instantly. Seriously, dying to a naked pervert is the most depressing way to go. The naked apostle yawns, asking if that is all he has got. He wanted a fun fight. Desperate, Ilshin racks his brain. Then, a wild idea hits. Using his multiplication skill, he summons a clone, hoping the clone will actually help him fight the naked freak. Surely his own clone won't attack him with an enemy right here, right? The apostle is genuinely impressed by this trick. But of course, the clone immediately glares at Ilshin. Remembering how much the clone complained about him being too bossy last time, Ilshin wisely shuts his mouth. Surprisingly, the clone is actually worried about the Black Tribe's safety. If they die, their own shared stats will drop. Watching them casually chat, the naked apostle gets incredibly annoyed. Feeling completely ignored, he snaps and lunges at them. The clone casually dodges, leaving Ilshin to take the full blast. He slams into the ground, thinking that gaining power is totally pointless if he ends up dead. Looking serious, the clone orders Ilshin to burn this naked bastard. Suddenly, the clone gets hit by a blast, and Ilshin realizes his double is about to vanish. While the apostle charges another hit, Ilshin desperately wonders how he is supposed to burn the guy. Then, some old techniques suddenly flash through his mind. Raising his middle finger, stay classy. Kids, he gets an idea. He does have his own unique skill. As the apostle continues charging his strike, Ilshin points his finger forward. He triggers his own personal skill. The judgment, God's intervention. This completely catches the long-haired naked man off guard, his eyes widening in absolute shock as the power activates. With eyes burning with absolute determination, Ilshin charges forward with a bright, epic flame. Except, it is actually tiny. Honestly, it looks exactly like a cheap pocket lighter. Looking at him with absolute pity, the naked apostle asks if this pathetic spark is his final joke. Still charging, Ilshin raises his finger, desperately trying to pump up the flame. He touches his index finger to his thumb, combining it with his multiplication skill. With a wild grin, he launches the boosted flame directly at the naked apostle. A few tiny sparks drift toward the creepy apostle, doing 0 damage. The pervert laughs, telling him to stop playing around. Our hero, Ilshin, is convinced this is his tragic end, to think he is getting taken out by a clone of a naked weirdo. But right before he says goodbye, he spots the apostle flinching in agony. The flame burns are actually working. These Gehenna flames burn hotter the more evil the target is. Talk about instant karma. The smug apostle is suddenly clutching his wounds in agony, but he is not done yet. He fires a massive blast of dark energy right at our boy. A wicked purple aura wraps around Ilshin, sending him twisting in sheer pain. The real showdown begins right now. While they clash, the Black Tribe far away is dropping like flies from poison. Because of this, the evil god's power plunges. The winged warrior points out exactly who is to blame. It is all the fault of that twisted deity they worship. But before he can celebrate, a bizarre noise rings out. Turning around, he senses something blazing toward him at ridiculous speeds. It is the Gami people's evil god. The warrior smirked, telling him to bring it on since his energy is almost dry. But Ilshin's clone is already charging in, holding absolutely nothing back. The strike hits the bug guy like a freight train, launching him into the sky. It is an instant knockout, leaving nothing but smoke and ashes. The clone quietly scans the carnage. Bodies of fallen cultists are scattered everywhere. Meanwhile, back at the fight, our main character is in pure agony, feeling like every bone in his body just shattered. Then, a system alert pops up. If his follower count keeps crashing, his stats are going with them. Talk about terrible timing. Freaked out, he wonders if he can just use the healing god's ring finger on himself. If that works, he is basically immortal, which is completely broken. Pressing the finger to his forehead, he activates the skill. The apostle just stares, looking utterly confused by this weird stunt. A warning pops up saying self-healing costs 10 million coins. Ouch. Still, being broke is better than being dead. Plus, rescuing the Gami tribe paid out a ton of coins anyway. Shocked to see our guy standing like nothing happened, the apostle screeches in disbelief and immediately fires another spell. The deadly attack closes in fast on the distracted hero, but at the very last second, he triggers power sharing. Flipping his middle finger high, he prepares to unleash those judgment flames again, tapping into that god-tier skill. The apostle manages to dodge the blast by a hair, landing safely to the side. He laughs, admitting our main character is actually a formidable opponent who cannot be underestimated. Then he drops a bombshell. 999 people are currently being sacrificed as a grand offering. Ilshin freezes, realizing the horror of what this psycho is doing. This ritual will not stop until only a single apostle is left standing. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces click for Ilshin. That is why they kidnapped the sword demon and set this trap. Cackling like a madman, the apostle raises his hand, declaring this is the ultimate sacrifice to summon his god. Suddenly, a massive crimson beam tears straight through the ceiling, obliterating the structure. High above, a massive, creepy eyeball stares down at them. Ilshin is completely paralyzed with fear, while the apostle is practically drooling with joy. Our hero knows he has to stop this. He readies his god-crushing index finger, but a system alert instantly kills his hope. The skill does not work on the god of destruction. Suddenly, the apostle doubles over in agony. As his body begins to horribly mutate, the apostle screams that this was not the deal, but the giant eye does not care, blasting him into the dirt before focusing on our hero. Shutting his eyes tight, he focuses. A dark vision washes over him, making him feel like this is truly the end. But he wonders if this nightmare is just some sick illusion. Once, a mighty god was loved for his strength and kindness. Then came the god of destruction, the ultimate traitor of the abyss, destined to lose his goddess, his world, and his life. He was known as the god of peace, and now only a dark void remains. But in an instant, our hero snaps his eyes open, transforming into the ultimate incarnation of vengeance. He stands before a ridiculously massive sword. Staring at the titanic weapon, he commands it to join his quest for revenge. The blade glows, so colossal, its true size defies belief. Our hero remains absolutely fearless. The massive, creepy eyeball invades the space, pulsing with pure, evil energy. Step by step, the monstrous entity creeps closer to them. The sword demon wants to protect his lord, but his body is completely paralyzed by fear. Noticing his terrified follower, Ilshin speaks up calmly, telling him to just relax and watch the show. He is about to slaughter the god that pervert worshipped. But suddenly, a painful shriek cuts them off. Demonic snakes slither around the apostle's body as he wails in agony. The miserable apostle screams, pleading for mercy and crying that this is not what they agreed on. Ilshin and the sword demon watch this gruesome betrayal unfold. It is a reality check. The god this cultist worshipped is actually a selfish demon. As the eyeball keeps creeping closer, our hero smirked, asking what it is looking at. The sword demon is sweating bullets. This is the very entity that evaporated the naked cultist with a single glance, yet Ilshin remains completely unfazed. Suddenly, a blinding sword of light materializes in our hero's hand. The follower's eyes light up as if looking at a literal miracle. Meanwhile, the apostle is a shriveled husk, drained dry as the creepy demon closes the distance. Gripping the handle with both hands, Ilshin unleashes the absolute authority of the celestial sword. This legendary blade can slice through anything, and he is letting loose its full might. They become one, as a terrifying face of pure energy takes shape. Even the massive eyeball starts flinching from the insane pressure. Ilshin leaps high, ready to end this. He holds the massive blade tight, diving straight toward the demon. Destructive fury is the only thing on his mind. Creepy tentacles whip out to grab him, but our hero yells. His voice echoes with raw power, banishing the giant entity from this realm forever. The impact is legendary, shaking the earth. Next, we cut to the abandoned 12th district. Soldiers scour the area, talking about a crazy triple S-class beast that can level a whole country. A cool-looking dude in a trench coat and sunglasses demands answers. It is Hai Kang Chol, the big boss of the Hunter Association, mentioning it is time to initiate the project. Suddenly, soldiers shout that they have found a survivor. He approaches a shriveled, half-dead body. Asking what went down, he is weirded out to hear the man giggling like a lunatic despite being in such a pathetic state. While calling for an ambulance, he senses a creepy power flowing inside the survivor. Flashback time. As the eye devoured him, Ilshin ordered him to be put down. After a colossal explosion, the eye is completely vaporized, and Ilshin emerges victorious with his giant sword. This makes the apostle realize he is a true god. Elsewhere, hunters stare at a dead dragon, muttering that Sunmina did this. She single-handedly crushed the beast using nothing but psychic powers. Talk about an absolute boss. A hunter doubts if she is just an S-class, given how tough dragons are. She rolls her eyes, telling him to stop talking and cough up the reward money. Handing over a blue gem, he jokes that pretty girls should smile more. These rocks cost 100 million each, so why does she need them? She is furious. They promised an epic dragon, but it was just this weak trash. 2 days later, a kid asks a question, as she applies the pain relief patch. The young man sighs with relief the exact moment it hits his back. Turns out, Ilshin's niece is the one nursing him. All this pain? Just some nasty backlash from using his massive sword's power. Thanks to that, our hero stopped the colossal monster eye from escaping. But post-mission, he had to drag along his ultra-loyal follower. And honestly, this guy was acting incredibly weird. He creeped out Ilshin's niece so much, she was constantly on edge. Still, he kept busy with chores, even fixing their broken bathroom door. He just couldn't stand seeing the sword god's home looking messy. Now, Ilshin is absolutely sure this dude is a total fanatic. He asks how he had time to repair the place before creepily sitting in the corner. The demon replies that he hardly did a thing to the brilliant guild, since Sunmina's elite hunter squad handled it all. Hearing that name, Ilshin gets a vibe like she is some super famous model he saw on television. Mina and Suni sound alike, so they must be family, even if they are total opposites. Shaking off the pain, our main character stands up to go find his niece's mom. Perhaps visiting the hospital means he can cure her with his abilities. Just then, he notices his karma points have absolutely skyrocketed. Well, he did just stop the clone of the god of destruction from invading Earth. But if that giant eye was merely a clone, how massive is the real dragon Narak? Right on cue, a system alert pops up. It says his divine achievement qualifies him to take the promotion. Now, he has to choose between walking the path of a righteous deity or an evil one. Naturally, he thinks doing both simultaneously would be an epic challenge. The requirements: amass 10 billion followers or slay them, or target S-class followers instead. Suddenly, he spots a loophole and accepts both paths. If he manages his followers smartly, he can completely break the system, and so, he decides to send his followers to battle, leaving his niece watching him in utter terror. Later on, they arrive at hospital room 505. Ilshin doubts if this is the spot but knocks anyway, after hearing a bizarre noise coming from within. Her raspy, hoarse voice sounds off. But stepping inside, he finds the young girl doing intense push-ups. Spotting him, she beams with a massive, happy smile. Ilshin asks why on earth she is training while recovering. Miri explains that resting too long makes her feel incredibly stiff. She claims she feels amazing. And look, not a single scar is left. Hyped. The girl starts ripping off her bandages to show her master. But out of nowhere, another woman bursts in, screaming if she has lost her mind. Raising her arm, she readies a Fashion Anytime's vicious blow and chops the bandaged girl right on the back. Ilshin stands there, completely baffled by where this newcomer came from. She furiously scolds her sister for undressing in front of a guy. With sheer rage, she demands to know who he is. Marching right up to our hero, she barks questions about his connection to her little sister. She promises death to anyone messing with her, but Miri intervenes, shouting at her sister to show some respect to her beloved teacher. Sliding down her glasses, the woman asks if he works at the Hunter Academy. Ilshin prepares to answer, but notices a terrified look on Miri's face. The girl frantically signals him to keep his mouth shut. Thinking fast, our main character claims he is just a gym teacher. The aggressive woman then demands his rank, muttering that he doesn't look like much. Miri gets highly offended by this attitude, arguing her master is absolutely legendary, despite being unknown to the public and having a total slob look. The girl even snaps that he could easily beat her sister, so she better watch out. Annoyed, the woman whips off her baseball cap, revealing her true face, which completely stuns Ilshin. It is none other than Sun Mina, the world-famous S-class hunter. Furious, she asks her little sister if she lost her mind alongside her rank demotion. Then, activating her mind manipulation skill, she commands her sister to repeat that statement and declare who really rules this room. Miri struggles as the mental force takes over, desperately trying to apologize to her ruthless sibling. Showing zero mercy, Mina cold-bloodedly orders her to get down, forcing the poor girl onto her knees. Mina snaps that she must only do what she is commanded. Suddenly, Ilshin and Mina lock eyes. Our main character steps forward, telling the S-class hunter to cool it, since she already broke her sister's spirit. Visibly triggered, Mina screams at him to get lost. Ilshin plugs his ears, complaining that her voice is way too loud. Losing her patience, Mina unleashes her mind control skill again, ordering the boy to leave, but her high-tier mind control is completely useless against him. Ilshin, totally oblivious to the mental attack, just casually suggests they talk it out like adults. Miri is absolutely jaw-dropped that her teacher just shrugged off an S-class hunter's psychological attack. Mina demands to know his true rank, but before he can even speak, she suddenly pivots, bows deeply, and politely requests the young man to look after her sister. Pulling her cap down, she tells Miri to eat well and stay healthy. It turns out Sun Mina is 24, a devotee of the god of destruction, and is currently suffering from Narak's curse. Ilshin is torn. She has an awful attitude, but she is Miri's sister and genuinely cares for her. So, our hero straight up asks if she is feeling any pain or dealing with some dark curse. He cuts right to the chase, mentioning the infamous curse of Narak. The moment she hears that name, Mina drops her head, glaring up with a murderous look to ask how he knows. Ilshin stammers that his skill lets him sense deep emotions, feeling pretty freaked out by her intense reaction. But the lady's scary face instantly softens, and she laughs it off. Turning around, she promises they will cross paths again. Our main character shivers, realizing S-class pressure is seriously terrifying. Throwing hands with her would be a total nightmare. Miri walks up, asking what is on his mind. Ilshin looks at her and asks if she can come upstairs with him for a bit. She beams with a sweet smile and happily nods. Soon, our hero is staring directly at a legendary lightning tiger. He channels every ounce of his power, yet absolutely nothing happens. He tries invoking the smashing god's divine index finger repeatedly, but it completely fails. He thought this would be a piece of cake since he does this all the time. But he failed, and even though she is healing, he can't grasp why it's proving so incredibly tough. Asking Miri to wait a second, he suddenly spots a system notification flashing. The message reveals that some of her powers are heavily sealed, and so, our hero gathers all his focus onto that troublesome seal. Having him stare so intensely makes the poor girl blush red, but Ilshin is deadlocked on his task, like trying to thread a microscopic needle. And just like that, the lock suddenly shatters. Taken aback, he wonders aloud why it broke, then immediately asks Miri if she knows where her sister is. Grinning like a total troll, a genius plan strikes him, realizing he needs to have a very serious chat with her family. After planning his next move, our MC acts. Cut to a massive, heavily fortified prison building. Armed guards patrol the high-security perimeter. Inside a dark cell, the former apostle kneels, remembering the voice of the God who saved him when he wanted to end it all. He endured everything for salvation, but it was a massive lie. Still, he had clung to that deity with everything he had. Memories of their last battle flash back to him, reminding him how used and powerless he really was. Now he knows that the entity was a literal demon, completely betraying his hopes. His blank stare shows his shattered faith, but suddenly, a face flashes in his mind, the true God of gods. Staring at the golden beams of light filtering through his tiny window, he begs this savior for forgiveness, realizing he is the one who truly rescued Earth. He humbly prays for permission to worship this magnificent, holy deity. Right then, a wave of pure, absolute devotion washes over him. Now a true believer of Ilshin, his system interface reveals his new god's holy name. Tears of joy fill his eyes as he whispers thanks for the grace. Suddenly, a mysterious figure materializes in his locked cell. This masked stranger asks if he just muttered Ilshin. Stepping closer, the bewildered prisoner demands to know how the intruder bypassed security, asking if the Hunter Association's the big bosses decided to throw him away, despite always craving his powers. John asks if they are just scared of what people think. Sure, he is not an evil apostle anymore, but he can still kill. The masked villain just laughs, asking if he forgot he belongs to the underworld. But our mystery avenger cuts him off. Honestly, none of that matters, because nobody hurts his sweet sister, Miri. With a simple point of his finger, the bad guy's chest completely tightens up. An agonizing pain takes over. instantly dropping the masked villain straight to his knees right there on the cold floor. He screams in absolute agony, but there is nobody around to help. Cut to our main character chilling at home, slightly bummed he never got Mina's number. But hey, meeting top celebrities is always impossible anyway. At least the sword demon is gone now, leaving only a dramatic farewell letter. Suddenly, the young man's phone buzzes. The screen lights up with a wild alert about an apostle. This guy, John, just registered as his devoted follower, and he is a top-tier S-class powerhouse. So even without the demon, his cult is growing. Then, another notification pops up. Never mind, John is already dead. Talk about short-lived hype. But wait, our main character, Ilshin, automatically absorbs the dead guy's power. His phone completely glitches out with system alerts. The screen warns him that absorbing an S-class soul comes with side effects, mostly horrible pain. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light erupts, and his entire body is hit with a massive wave of agony. He screams in pure torture as John's S-class abilities fuse with his own. So, being a god means you still get the power even if your followers kick the bucket. Pretty neat, but he is still confused. He looks up how his brand new follower actually died, and a news article pops up. Turns out, this John guy was a massive black market boss. Luckily, the quest to become a benevolent god did not fail. His body is totally drained, but he is still wondering why a notorious criminal suddenly became his fanboy right before having a sudden heart attack. Honestly, our main character decides not to overthink it. The guy was just a weird, creepy villain anyway, so good riddance. Besides, with these insane new S-class powers, our boy can finally become a famous, wealthy hunter and live the dream life. But then he remembers his day job. He is a web novel writer, even if he is kind of struggling, so he needs to start writing while he still has some creative spark left. After grinding out 10 chapters based on his actual life experiences, he hits upload. He is exhausted but highly optimistic about getting some great reviews. Instead, his eyes lock onto something that completely ruins his day. The comment section is absolutely roasting his work. Realizing writing might not be his thing, he hears a sudden knock on his door, which is pretty weird. He is not expecting guests, and if that annoying sword demon has already crawled back, he is going to lose his mind. He throws open the door, ready to scream, but instantly freezes. Standing there is Miri, looking incredibly anxious. The poor girl is completely out of breath and worried sick, dropping to her knees on the floor. She tightly clasps her hands together, begging him. She begs her beloved teacher for a massive favor. Looking at those watery, pleading puppy dog eyes, Ilshin realizes there is absolutely no way any normal human could ever say no to this. He immediately agrees to help, which instantly boosts the girl's faith by 10 points. Talk about easy stat points. Miri is absolutely thrilled, and the very next day, they head over to the Hunter Academy. Tagging along with her, Ilshin asks if this big favor was literally just pretending to be her guardian instead of her older sister. Apparently, the school director called because of her constant absences, but she chose him. Still, he is highly suspicious that a simple parent-teacher meeting boosted her faith by 10 points. Miri starts buttering him up, saying he looks incredibly handsome in a suit and should wear them more often. He even promises to buy him some premium training sweatsuits. Ilshin squints, highly suspicious of all this sudden flattery. He starts worrying that Miri might be just as crazy as that sword demon. He quickly drags her along so they are not late. When they finally step into the office, the school official asks how he is related to Miri. The girl nervously blurted out that he is her uncle. The guy eyes them suspiciously, noting they look absolutely nothing alike, but Miri stubbornly insists they share a family resemblance. Ilshin sighs internally because this lie is honestly so terrible. Checking the system profile, our main character sees this instructor, Lee Gunwook, is a 33-year-old muscle-bound giant. Honestly, the guy just looks like a normal dude obsessed with the gym. Lee apologizes, admitting he expected her famous sister, Sunmina, to show up. He asks if Ilshin is also a hunter, but our boy quickly plays dumb, claiming to be a totally normal civilian. Miri instantly beams with pride and starts boasting about her uncle. Shortly after, the scene cuts to a grand office decorated with a massive monster horn. A gray-haired man walks in, reflecting on the past. Years ago, an enormous portal tore open right above this school, unleashing a colossal demonic ogre that threatened to wipe out the entire nation. Panic ensued as soldiers begged the hunters to save them, but even the top hunters stood no chance against such a beast. Suddenly, a soldier spotted something crazy and yelled for the commander to look. A lone warrior was walking out to fight it. This brave hero concentrated every ounce of his power directly into his fist. The monster roared and lunged, but with one earth-shattering punch, a blinding flash erupted, and the giant ogre collapsed. The mysterious hero stood victorious. Nobody knew who he was, yet he had single-handedly obliterated a high S-class threat. Fast forward to the present day, and that legendary warrior is much older. Living a quiet life now, people know him as Choi Kangen, the cleaner. He decided to run this academy to raise the next generation of heroes. Unfortunately, the school's most gifted student is his biggest headache. Sun Miri is a genius, but she is also incredibly spoiled. Choi intends to lay down the law during today's meeting so he can finally get some peace and quiet around here. Meanwhile, Lee is making small talk with Ilshin, asking about his writing career. Since Lee loves reading, he is genuinely curious about what genres our main character writes. But when he finds out the truth, hearing that Ilshin literally writes novels about buff, muscular ants, the gym bro instructor gets incredibly hyped, talking about weird bonding moments. Soon, they arrive at the director's office, and Lee knocks. Our main character nervously adjusts his tie, trying to act natural. Stepping inside, he gives a polite bow and introduces himself as Miri's legal guardian and totally real uncle. He immediately asks what trouble Miri caused, but as soon as their eyes meet, a spark of recognition hits. Ilshin instantly remembers this director as the guy he saw drinking heavily on the streets. He is also the legendary S-class cleaner, Choi Kangan. Meanwhile, the director is sweating bullets, recognizing Ilshin as that insanely dangerous guy from a previous encounter. He desperately hopes he is just hallucinating. Surely a monster like that wouldn't be attending parent-teacher conferences, right? Recognizing the guy, Ilshin decides to break the ice and drops the polite act. Lee instantly notices the director's sudden, extreme panic. The muscular instructor wonders if he should step in to protect the weak civilian. After all, the director is an S-class powerhouse who could easily vaporize this normal guy with a single slap. Miri steps in to block them, demanding to know what the director is doing. Sweating, the old man stammers about monsters showing up out of nowhere. Lee is completely baffled by his boss's sudden terror. This is the first time anyone has ever seen this legend look so absolutely terrified. To ease the tension, Ilshin casually mentions that he even lent the director some cash once. That was a big mistake. The director instantly panics, screaming that he does not need to pay anything back. Without warning, he crashes straight through the glass window, leaping out of the high-rise building like a madman. Leaving everyone completely stunned, the legendary hunter hits the ground running and bolts like a maniac. Our main character is left standing there holding his tie, completely speechless at the absolute chaos. The trio stares out of the shattered window in absolute disbelief. The gym bro instructor awkwardly tries to apologize for the sudden exit, asking if they are okay after witnessing their boss's wild escape. Alright, you and I are back with this hilarious story. Since meeting someone lately, the director's brain has completely left the chat. He promises to return soon, and sure enough, he actually creeps back in. They all sit down for cookies and tea. Mary absolutely loves the snacks and begs her uncle to grab one. Ilshin politely passes, telling his totally fake niece to eat up instead. But while chatting with Mary, he spots the director staring at him like a total creep. Suddenly, a system alert pops up. A believer just offered Choi Kang's snack to their god. Taking a bite, he realizes this cookie is also a holy offering. Since Choi Kang's intense gaze is getting too weird, our boy stands up to confront him, asking if they should take this conversation outside. The director immediately panics, claiming everything is totally fine and they should definitely stay right here. Seeing this nervous wreck, our main character realizes this guy is seriously losing his mind. This meeting is clearly a disaster in the making. Hoping to save the vibe, Lee speaks up and brings up Mary's school absences. Since she is actually a stellar student, it is just a friendly warning to keep her record clean. Lee thanks Ilshin for stopping by, while the director sits there looking completely drained. Since their business is officially finished, our boy announces it is finally time to leave. Suddenly, the director screams at them to stop. Everyone freezes in absolute shock as the crazy old man insists he cannot let Ilshin go. He dramatically asks if Ilshin has any idea how desperately he has been searching for him since that fateful day. Tearing up, he claims this encounter is destiny, boasting about his elite academy as top-tier gear, demanding they run some tests. He basically dares Ilshin to say no. Our main character is genuinely creeped out by this aggressive behavior. Then, the desperate director offers to literally beg on his knees just to test him. Ilshin bargains, saying he will agree only if the director ignores Mary's absences and stops forcing her into unwanted training. Lee is clearly hesitant, but the director agrees without skipping a beat. Just like that, a sketchy new deal is struck. Shortly after, the director meets with a young woman who complains about testing an ordinary civilian like some high-level hunter. She points out his past record shows he is a measly G rank, wondering why this is such a huge deal. But Choi has. Ilshin stands before a glowing crystal selection orb, the Academy's official power meter. Suddenly, our protagonist gets a really bad feeling about this. A researcher instructs him to place his hand on the sphere. Ilshin slowly presses his palm onto the crystal. Instantly, an overwhelming power surges through him, sending his hair flying. The orb starts shaking violently, like a broken washing machine. The assistant declares the test is complete and tells him to step back. But then, she spots something absolutely mind-blowing. Ilshin gets hyped, thinking his true godlike power is finally getting revealed. He waits with bated breath for his rank, only to see it flatline at G rank. Disappointed, he sighs at the waste of time. The scientist brutally adds that this is literally the worst score in Academy history. The director desperately asks if the machine is broken, but the error rate is basically 0.1%. Mary is confused by their familiar bickering and asks if they are buddies. Meet Choi Yoonbi, head of the medical squad and the director's actual daughter. She immediately snaps at her dad, telling him to use her professional title on the clock. Ilshin wonders if the machine is simply too cheap to register his god-tier strength. Meanwhile, the stubborn director demands a retest. He refuses to accept this absolute trash score. But wait, here is where you and I get to see his brain work. What if this kid only unlocks his true powers under heavy pressure? If pressure is what it takes, the director will gladly provide some. Unaware of the impending danger, Ilshin casually asks Mary if she wants to grab lunch, and she happily agrees. Suddenly, the director teleports right behind him, dropping into a battle stance. Ilshin is completely stunned as the old man aggressively demands a fistfight. The crazy director then scoffs with pure disdain, claiming the test machine is completely clueless anyway. Ilshin points out this is pointless, but then a realization hits him. Both the sword demon and John became his loyal followers after a good beating. If he beats this crazy director, he can recruit another S-class devotee for his divine mission. Hyped for a free power-up, he accepts. This sudden turnaround leaves the girls highly suspicious. Choi is thrilled and drags everyone to the training room. But before the duel starts, Lee steps in and offers to fight in the director's place. He points out that a national legend shouldn't be sparring with a random kid. It would ruin his reputation. Soon, the gang gathers around the battle cage. Ilshin inspects the thick metal bars. Intrigued, he wonders if this heavy-duty arena can absorb supernatural energy. Lee asks if the kid seriously plans to fight without safety armor, though he isn't wearing any either. With a smug, arrogant expression, Lee boasts that he is far superior to normal humans. Grinning casually, Ilshin agrees to ditch the gear too. Lee's face instantly turns wicked as he warns the boy he is going to suffer. The director steps up and warns Ilshin to watch out. He warns that Gunwook is a top-tier B-rank combatant with deadly real-world experience. Mary cheers from the sidelines, wishing her uncle the best of luck. This adorable support makes our hero blush with embarrassment. Suddenly, a crowd gathers, hyped to watch the elite B rank in action. Ilshin is surprised by the sudden audience, but Lee just wants to end this quickly. He wants to wrap this up before it turns into a scene. Our boy smugly gestures for him to take the first shot. Lee gets ticked off, realizing this G-rank kid doesn't respect the massive power gap. He has no idea why the director is obsessed with this loser, but he is about to give him a brutal reality check. Both fighters square up, and Lee launches his opening strike. He throws a heavy, lightning-fast punch, but Ilshin effortlessly slips right past it. Lee is stunned, even though he only used a fraction of his true speed. He assumes it is just beginner's luck, but the luck stops here. Locking his eyes onto his target, Lee unleashes a brutal straight punch from a low angle. Ilshin calmly watches his opponent's fist flying toward his face. This time, he takes the hit head-on. The crowd goes wild, thinking the match is already over. Gunwook stands firm in his cool defensive pose, but his face suddenly pales. He looks down in horror as he realizes what actually happened. Ilshin is standing completely unfazed, blocking the massive blow with just a single finger. Ready to finish this, he activates his god-crushing blade skill. He points his middle finger right at his opponent's forehead. Flick! The impact is catastrophic. Lee barely has time to process the pain before he is sent flying across the arena, screaming inside. There is no way a trash G rank just one shot at a B rank. Lee crashes onto his back, completely broken. Ilshin proudly notes that beating a B rank should easily make him an A rank hunter. Our elite fighter is completely knocked out, and you can bet Umbi is just watching this ridiculous scene with her arms crossed. Pushing up her glasses, she stares in disbelief at the result. Ilshin is clearly on a whole different level. The crowd goes wild with confusion as poor Lee is carried away on a stretcher. Our main character watches closely, hoping Lee is actually okay, but there is no time to rest. The director climbs right into the ring, demanding a fight and dramatically tossing his shirt aside. Talk about being battle-ready. Even at 58 years old, Cho Kang is absolutely shredded, with his muscles packing unbelievable power. Staring at the director, our main character suddenly notices he has a brand new system alert. Honestly, he is not a fan of fighting giant meatheads, but converting the director would be incredibly useful. Ilshin's creepy, wild stare sends a cold shiver straight down Choi's spine. Choi assumes Gunwook lost so easily because the measuring device was just broken. Besides, this kid's energy seems way weaker than before. He figures our hero might actually need to pass out completely just to unleash his true potential. But before things kick off, our protagonist proposes a bet. Holding out his hand, he says the loser will owe a favor, which Choi agrees to, as long as it is nothing illegal. Ilshin promises it is nothing weird, though he will only reveal the demand after he wins. Choi is genuinely impressed by the kid's absolute confidence. Meanwhile, the protagonist is planning to force the director to say the trigger words if he does not become a believer, just like he did with the others. But Choi has a condition too, stating that he has also picked a favor if he somehow wins this clash. This works out perfectly for Ilshin, who is completely sure of his victory. With a grin, the director says, "That is fine," and immediately begins to unleash his raw power, sending a vibrant blue aura swirling around him. The massive gust of wind actually blows our hero back, making him realize this old-timer is dead serious. To match this insane pressure, he decides to activate his rigid body skill. Choi's eyes go wide as he witnesses the kid's muscles expand and harden. Aside from Mary, the entire audience is left gasping in shock. The director realizes his mentor was right about this kid being the chosen one. His mentor predicted that a noble yet incredibly savage warrior would eventually show up, and when he did, he had to be kept at the academy. Hearing this, Ilshin is pretty caught off guard, but honestly, he is way too busy writing his web novel and trying to get promoted to care. But right in the middle of his distracted thoughts, he suddenly senses an incoming attack. The director's massive fist is already inches from his face, landing a devastating punch that shakes the entire ring. The girls in the crowd are terrified. This old man moves with ridiculous velocity, yet he quickly realizes his young opponent is a total monster. Since Ilshin actually managed to block the strike, Choi decides to test if he truly is the predicted legend. Caught off guard by this quickness, our hero tries to counter, but Choi's reflexes are too sharp. The old man lands a brutal uppercut right on Ilshin's chin. It is a clean, heavy hit, and the young writer definitely feels the force. The director is now locked in, giving this fight his absolute all. Mary watches in pure panic as her master takes a direct blow, but Ilshin is far from done. He locks his eyes on Choi's rhythm, suddenly launching a brutal roundhouse kick straight into the old man's ribs. Choi takes the hit, but immediately retaliates with a heavy rib-shattering kick of his own. Our main character feels a wave of pure agony, grunting from the impact. Choi praises the kid's durability, making Ilshin wonder if this old guy is actually a true S-class hunter. But despite the overwhelming strength, our hero knows this challenge is worth the effort since he has not even unleashed his own full strength yet. Choi declares he is going to force the kid into his academy, preparing to go all out. Brace yourselves, because our main character prepares for the impact and wishes the old man good luck. In an instant, they clash again. Choi's footwork is blindingly fast and solid, proving he is finally unleashing his true, terrifying potential. The crowd starts getting incredibly nervous, remembering how the director once popped a giant monster like a birthday balloon. They just hope the kid does not end up the same way. Mary realizes that despite her master's power, this is complete suicide, and she desperately needs to find a way to stop this madness. Both fighters wind up for a massive clash, but the director is actually channeling a glowing magic seal on his fist. Our hero raises his arm to block the incoming strike, but a sudden pop-up completely derails his focus. The system alerts him that his loyal follower, Ilho, has conquered the flower trial on the 11th floor of the Tower of Heroes. And, as a devout apostle, he is sending a holy tribute. Ilshin knows that whenever Ilho clears a floor, some weird gift arrives, but before he can even look at it, he has to survive this lethal punch. On the other side, the director is totally fine with accidentally breaking the kid's arm. Their fists are about to collide, preparing to unleash a massive shockwave across the entire arena. In this split second, Ilshin is laser-focused on the clash, matching Choi's maximum power blow for blow. But right before impact, a random, massive bouquet of flowers suddenly materializes out of thin air right between their fists. This has to be the ridiculous tribute from his overzealous follower. Annoyed, Ilshin swats the useless weeds away, sending them flying right past the director's nose. But as the petals brush by, they trigger some deep, dark trauma in the old man's brain. Visions of a horrifying plant monster flash before Choi's eyes, absolutely paralyzing him with fear. In complete hysterics, the legendary director crashes straight through the arena railing, sobbing for his mommy. Ilshin is left standing there in absolute bewilderment, staring at the giant, director-shaped hole in the fence. He literally thinks the guy just had a severe allergic reaction. But, hey, a win is a win, which means the old man should be his newest believer now. However, checking his phone, he sees no new alerts. Our hero realizes he might actually have to force the old guy to say those specific trigger words first. Suddenly, his phone begins vibrating like crazy. It turns out his ant colony is facing a massive influx of wanderers, and he has to decide whether to let them in. Honestly, this is a massive win for him since his cult of believers is about to skyrocket. Glancing over, he notices Mary staring at him with pure adoration, so he decides to slip away to a peaceful spot to manage his growing empire. Tucked away, he starts upgrading his territory, expanding the outer walls, and building new homes. As the settlement grows, his divine followers start multiplying rapidly. Realizing he needs to expand the land to fit this massive population, he suddenly imagines how stressful things will get once he hits 1 billion followers, accidentally letting slip a pretty bad curse word. Nearby, his loyal ants watch him in awe, interpreting the swear as a divine command. They literally think it is some high-level celestial spell, and our main character gets a bizarre system notification. The tiny ants are now chanting the curse word in unison like a holy prayer. Our hero realizes he probably should not swear in front of his kids, but he suddenly remembers his unfinished business with the director. But before he can investigate, another screen pops up, and this one is deeply unsettling. Somewhere far away, the legendary sword demon is huddled in a dark corner holding a dagger. With completely hollow eyes, he grips the blade tight, pointing it right at his own chest. The system asks our hero if he wants to save his follower from self-harm. The poor warrior is shaking uncontrollably. Suddenly, a glowing portal tears open, and Ilshin steps out right behind him, finding the shattered man kneeling helplessly on the ground. Feeling the warm presence of his deity, the demon turns around with tear-filled eyes, begging his lord to save him. Quickly, our main character grabs his hand, wrestling the deadly weapon away. He manages to snatch the dagger, tossing it straight to the floor and kicking it far out of reach, just to be safe. He demands to know why he is trying to end things, but the demon insists that is not actually what is happening. Our hero is highly skeptical, considering how close the blade was, but out of nowhere, a mysterious masked figure appears behind them, their glowing red eyes saying absolutely nothing. The intruder is deeply unsettled, realizing they never felt our hero approach at all. The demon desperately warns his savior to watch out, warning him that this silent, masked creep has even altered their voice to hide their identity. This is definitely no ordinary weirdo. Squinting, our main character studies the quiet stalker, only to realize this is actually not is he a creep or just a pervert? He demands to know what Sunmina is doing here, but she stays completely silent. Meanwhile, the sword demon grips his scabbard, warily watching her every move. She ignores the subordinate, spitting angry words directly at our protagonist. But as you and I will see, Ilshin simply replies that his senses operate on a completely different level, leaving his follower utterly shocked. With a sharp motion, the girl pulls off her mask, revealing a fiercely determined face. The sword demon gasps, completely dazed by her striking beauty. He actually blurts out a compliment, finding it hard to believe that someone with such an angelic face could be so incredibly dangerous. Mina scoffs, calling it absurd that her high-grade concealment mask failed, screaming in disbelief that a basic sensory skill could ever see through it. The raw force in her voice rattles the demon, but Ilshin remains totally unfazed, calmly telling her to relax before asking what brought her here. Her face twists with pure venom as she glares at them, declaring he came to kill that bastard standing right there. Ilshin's eyes widen, asking if she's really sure about that. The sword demon quietly explains she is one of the only 10 survivors he ever failed to eliminate. She possesses monster-level strength. Yet, our protagonist just turns to his follower and casually asks, "Isn't he kind of weak?" Shrugging it off, he asks Mina if she can just drop this grudge. Sure, the sword demon is a bit odd, but he's ultimately just a pitiful, kind soul. Mina, however, isn't buying any of it. She refuses to spare the monster who murdered her own brother. Ilshin sighs, asking if bloodshed will truly solve anything. He even offers to take full responsibility if she spares him, but Mina coldly responds that everything is already playing out exactly as planned. She has a clear vision for the aftermath of his death, and once he's gone, Ilshin is next on her hit list. Apparently, someone named John pinned him as the true mastermind behind everything. She accuses him of cozying up to Mary under the guise of helping her. But Ilshin suddenly cuts her off with a sharp question. Why did she seal her own sister's power? The sudden revelation leaves her completely stunned. She panics, wondering if his sensory skill exposed her secret. This only solidifies her resolve. She absolutely has to eliminate him. No matter how powerful Miri is, she could never break that seal on her own. It was all Sunmina's doing. Still, Ilshin can't wrap his head around why she'd risk her own life just to keep that seal active. Then, he drops a highly provocative question. Did jealousy drive her to lock up her little sister's potential just to remain the superior hunter? That strikes a massive nerve. Furious, she unleashes her mental manipulation, forcing the sword demon to jump in. He lunges at Mina, blade drawn, but she detects the incoming threat just in the nick of time. Swiveling her hand toward him, she makes a lightning-fast gesture with her fingers. A burst of crimson energy slams into the sword demon, blasting him backward through the air. He crashes violently into a tree, completely paralyzed. Ilshin looks on, genuinely taken aback by the power. It's a terrifying technique, executed with a mere flick of her wrist. Worried for his follower, Ilshin checks if he's all right. The battered demon desperately warns his master that Mina is no ordinary opponent. She isn't just S-class, she's double S-class. Ilshin is quietly intrigued, wondering about the true depth of her power, as red sparks begin crackling around her palm. She coldly declares it's time for him to die, suddenly balling her hand into a tight fist. In that exact second, a bizarre sensation grips Ilshin's chest, squeezing his vital organs. The sword demon screams out in absolute panic. Meanwhile, Ilshin can feel her spiritual weight grinding directly against his heartbeat. Mina peers down at him, her eyes icy and utterly calculating. With no obvious way to block an internal strike, the young man's face tightens. The sword demon plunges into total despair, wailing hysterically until Ilshin finally snaps and tells him to shut his mouth because it literally just feels like a mild tickle. Flooded with relief, the follower beams while our protagonist chuckles, teasingly asking her to cut out the tickling. Mina stands frozen in shock. She just unleashed her absolute maximum output. Swallowing her pride, she admits this guy is far tougher than she anticipated, but she is far from finished. If he thinks she's a one-trick pony limited to mind games, he's dead wrong. Waves of brilliant blue energy begin surging through her frame, forcing the sword demon to grip his hilt in pure terror. They're in deep trouble. Mina's eyes flare as she molds a volatile scarlet aura. And trust me, you and I do not want to be on the receiving end of what comes next. In Korea, S-class is the official peak, meaning this girl easily outclasses even Director Choi. Without a shred of hesitation, she points a finger and commands her targets to burn. Ilshin braces himself, keeping his focus locked on her, while his servant panics. Out of nowhere, a massive blazing meteor of fire plunges from the sky, hurtling directly toward them. He raises his arms to block the impact, but both he and his follower are caught in the devastating explosion. As the smoke clears, he examines a slight singe on his arm. A massive crater now scars the earth where the blast landed. Her destructive power is just as terrifying as her mental illusions. Flash of a wicked grin, she boasts she is just warming up. A sphere of freezing blue energy materializes high above, dropping fast as she commands them to freeze. The frosty orb crashes down, landing right in the middle of the two men. An icy chill instantly creeps up Ilshin's legs, locking his feet in place, while the sword demon is completely encased in solid ice. Our hero marvels at her insanely diverse arsenal. He casually asks if she's a spiritual-type hunter, which she proudly confirms. Channeling his physical strength, the young man effortlessly shatters the frost, binding his feet, stepping forward with a smirk. He points out that the freezing cold is merely an illusion, a trick of the mind. Mina doesn't deny it, agreeing her magic is purely spiritual, before launching a barrage of flying stones. She confidently claims that a flawless illusion is practically indistinguishable from reality itself. While the sword demon remains helplessly trapped in ice, a storm of jagged rocks closes in on Ilshin. But she isn't stopping at pebbles. Channeling her telekinetic focus, she hoists a monolithic boulder into the air, dwarfing her own size, preparing to crush both of them under its weight. She mockingly warns them that illusion or not, getting flattened by a mountain-sized rock will kill them just the same. With a violent sweep of her arm, she hurls the massive boulder. If he wants to survive, she demands he state his true identity and ultimate goals. But our hero knows that even if he tells the absolute truth, she will never believe a single word of it. Deciding to risk it, he confesses he's just a web novel writer and the god of an ant colony. Since his current mission is guiding Mary to S-class, he asks her to break the seal. Mina sneers, convinced this lunatic is begging to die. Ordering him to perish right now, she hurls the massive rock straight at him. The frozen sword demon can only scream in absolute despair. The boulder slams down with a thunderous roar, pulverizing the earth and sending sharp stone fragments exploding outward. Mina watches the dust settle, convinced she just swatted an annoying bug. Through the debris, a calm voice echoes, activating Skillshare. With his rigid body technique active, Ilshin directly confronts the impact, utterly shattering the massive boulder into millions of tiny pieces. His iron fist punches straight through the stone, triggering an incredibly violent shockwave. Mina is forced to shield her eyes as blinding lines of residual energy tear across the heavens. As the heavy dust begins to clear, Ilshin steps out completely unharmed. Mina stares in disbelief that he shattered that mountain with raw physical power, prompting the hyped demon to shatter his icy cage. Having broken free in his excitement, the follower gets a swift reminder from Ilshin that the ice was purely an illusion. The realization makes the young demon turn red with embarrassment. He bows repeatedly, begging for forgiveness. Watching them bicker, Mina assumes he is just a weak G rank, but Ilshin tells his subordinate to hush. He has a job to finish. His eyes lock onto her. Look at Mina's shocked face. Our guy Ilshin moves with crazy speed, begging her to just listen for a second. But she is absolutely stunned by his quickness and scrambles backward. She demands to know how he did that, but there is zero time to chat as she begins charging her next big skill. Talk about rejection. Ilshin is just disappointed she won't even give him a chance. He realizes she is locking in another strike. This time, it is her mental space skill. A glowing magic circle forms in front of her hands, sending purple energy rushing through the entire area. But, suddenly, a massive blast of energy hits him, sending him flying backward. Ilshin blocks with his arms, but the force is too much. When he finally opens his eyes, he is somewhere completely different. It feels like standing in a limitless void. There is a sweet scent in the air, making him super relaxed. In this strange place, he feels totally invincible. But then, everything starts to shift. The sky lights up with thousands of beautiful stars, turning into a gorgeous night scene. It is honestly breathtaking. But then, a screaming, furious voice breaks the peace, yelling that she is absolutely livid. She unleashes another skill, snapping him back to reality. Right, he is in a literal fight. This time, she casts Deep Swamp, and he starts sinking into the ground, even though there is no actual water. Mina stares down at him, declaring that this is his final moment. But our guy is not about to give up. He tries activating his indicator, but the fake water is completely pinning him down. His skills are completely locked up and useless. Mina walks over with a smug look, telling him not to worry. Sure, it won't kill him, but he will be brain dead once he is fully pulled in. Hearing that, Ilshin yells back that being a vegetable is basically the exact same thing as dying, but he quickly reminds himself to take a deep breath. After all, this is just a massive illusion. Then, Mina literally steps on his head, telling him this is his final warning. With a cold, ruthless voice, she demands to know exactly who he is and what he is planning. Suddenly, his expression shifts. Mina thinks he is ready to spill the tea, but he is actually getting a view of something he definitely should not. Her face turns bright red in pure fury, while Ilshin realizes that this is exactly why you do not wear a dress when stepping on someone. She points an angry finger at him, screaming for him to die, and the heavy waters start thrashing around violently, rising to drown him. The waves swallow him completely. Mina stands there, totally convinced she has finally put an end to her annoying opponent. But deep under that imaginary water, our guy is fighting off extreme sleepiness. He knows he has to stay awake to figure out why she sealed his powers. Suddenly, a helpful system notification pops up amidst his exhaustion. It reveals that the conditions for his ascension are finally complete. Suddenly, bubbles start rising where he went under, and Mina gasps as a massive, terrifying carnivorous plant bursts out of the ground. For Ilshin, this whole chaotic situation feels like a peaceful nap. Mina, believing she has successfully taken out a major future threat despite not getting his name, turns around to head back to reality. But right before she can escape, she spots the water churning. Strange bubbles and an eerie light rise to the surface. Without warning, that massive, horrifying plant explodes from the deep water. The beast is covered in sharp thorns, thrashing around like a predator, looking for food. Mina barely dodges the attack, screaming in her head about what kind of freak monster this is. She locks her focus on the beast, trying to comprehend it. It rises from the water like a literal swamp demon, lunging forward to eat her alive. Mina manages to slip away just in time and sticks a clean landing, but her jaw drops when she counts its heads. There are way too many. How on earth did this thing break into her personal illusion when no one enters without her permission? Could her opponent have summoned this? The creature opens its massive mouth, snapping right at her face, but her eyes stretch wide when she catches a glimpse of what is hidden inside the monster. Tucked inside one of the giant flowers, Ilshin is just chilling, sleeping like a baby. He is so comfy that he wants to sleep forever. But unlike his lazy self, the beast is wildly active. Mina takes a hit straight to her arm, left totally clueless on her next move. She has never felt this utterly helpless before. The sheer difference in their power levels is honestly terrifying. The crushing pressure reminds her of one specific, horrible memory. It is the exact same dread she felt back then, the day she stood before the true demon everyone feared. Paralyzed by fear, she falls to the floor, completely defenseless. The massive thorny vine branches wrap around her body, cutting her skin as they pull her up, dragging her straight toward one of the beast's gaping mouths. The jaw opens slowly, ready to swallow her whole. Mina screams at the top of her lungs, begging for mercy. She cannot die yet, not before she gets her ultimate revenge on the Abyss Dragon. Her desperate words echo in the silence, but then flash. Her body completely disappears. Did she get eaten, or did she somehow escape? Meanwhile, we see a pair of bare feet walking. Our main character stands right in front of some ruined remains. He has no clue where he is, only remembering his fight with the girl's sister a second ago. Suddenly, a strange glow catches his eye. He decides to follow the mysterious light. A system alert chimes, announcing that the blind god's eye has activated, allowing you Ilshin to peer directly into Mina's deepest, darkest nightmare. Instantly, the truth behind why Mina sealed her sister Miri's powers is revealed. Her trauma and temper started 15 years ago, when the Abyss Dragon, the worst monster in history, showed up. The beast slaughtered thousands of people, brutally killing and eating the girl's parents right in front of them, before leaving a cursed mark on both of the terrified young sisters. Knowing their massive potential, the dragon marked them as future sacrifices. Using the curse's dark power, Mina managed to reach S-Class at just 14 years old. Ever since that day, she lived solely for cold-blooded revenge. Rumors claimed the dragon was already dead, but she refused to believe it, spending every waking hour preparing for the beast's inevitable return. The curse was a ticking time bomb. The stronger she got, the faster her lifespan drained away. This tragic curse grants insane rapid growth, but it ruthlessly cuts your life short. Even worse, her sister was suffering from the exact same curse. Mina desperately tried to break the spell but failed. To save her sister, she made a heartbreaking choice to seal her powers. Doing so shaved even more years off Mina's own life, but it successfully halted her sister's growth to S-Class. She just wanted her sister to have a normal life, free from the cycle of revenge. Ilshin watches this tragic memory, completely heartbroken. Tears well up in his eyes, but suddenly, Mina's spirit shatters from being devoured, and the entire dream world begins to crumble away. The sword demon had been calling out to him, but Ilshin is too spaced out to answer. The follower mentions how incredibly glad he is that his god survived the mental attack. He asks what they should do with the unconscious girl, suggesting they turn her over to the Hunters Association. But a panicked Ilshin rushes straight to her side to check her vitals. He cradles her, desperately begging her to open her eyes. After shouting her name a few times, the girl groans, showing a weak sign of life. Worried, sick, he immediately asks where it hurts. She weakly tries to form a sentence, gathering all her remaining strength, but she only manages to whisper the word mom. Ilshin's face pales with worry as the scene shifts to a clear sky. The warm sun shines over an isolated, towering house. Inside, Mina is sleeping peacefully like a little child, even sucking her thumb. But to his absolute horror, Ilshin's healing finger is not working. Panic setting in, he asks his loyal cult followers for some medical advice. The gym junkie follower suggests just making her body buff, while the sword fanatic brutally recommends sacrificing her since she is doomed anyway. Then, another follower chimes in, pointing out that once he ascends to a high-level god, he will be able to cure absolutely anything. Hearing this, our main character starts to plot his next move. Alright, you and I are jumping right back in. Our hero remembers that creepy, night-blooming rose. He immediately realizes some enemy must have poisoned him while he was totally knocked out, all thanks to that cursed flower. But then, a sudden brain blast hits him, and he genuinely thinks he is a total genius. He asks his shadow follower, Nightmare, if he is right. Nightmare suggests a fix, but our main character turns bright red. Sleep together to heal her? Seriously? Nightmare silently nods, basically saying there is absolutely no other choice. Convinced, he reluctantly lies down on the bunk below Mina's, but he immediately gets back up, tucking her blanket in. Suddenly, her eyes snap open, and she asks what he is doing. He quickly panics and says he is just making breakfast. Relax, guys. This sleeping arrangement is not romantic at all. It is just a trick so Mina can share her dreams and slowly recover her lost memories. By dreaming together, her memories should return. To test this theory, our hero asks her standard questions about her name and favorites, but when he asks what she hates most, she whimpers about that scary flower. Her mental age has clearly reverted to a toddler. Meanwhile, massive news is breaking outside. An S-Class hunter has been kidnapped. Now, Ilshin has to keep her hidden until she recovers. Our hero decides his best bet is contacting her sister, Miri. Outside, his loyal sword demon is busy training. The moment he sees his master step out, he instantly snaps to attention. With a deep, respectful bow, the demon praises his master's teaching style. This crazy swordsmanship completely shatters every single standard rule he has ever learned about handling a blade. Ilshin paid a ridiculously high price for this knowledge, just to evolve his helper. After all, his main quest requires a mind-blowing 1 billion S-Class followers to finally win the game. Suddenly, a system alert pops up. 2 of his followers are now primed to transcend. Back in the village, Anti and Ilho have officially hit S-class status. Talk about perfect timing. This means his sword demon is next in line to evolve. Since upgrading existing allies is the fastest way to build an S-class army, our guy decides to splash some cash on powerful gear for them. But wait, these shop items are strictly non-refundable. Total scam. Still, he refuses to lose hope. He remembers those awesome growth potions that worked like a charm on Ilho earlier. Maybe they will work on the sword demon too. He waves, handing over the flasks, telling him to chug them while practicing. Our hero heads back inside to start cooking some breakfast. The loyal demon eagerly offers to cook instead, but Ilshin tells him to focus on getting stronger. Eyes gleaming with absolute devotion, the knight kneels, vowing to surpass all expectations. Back inside, our hero is just stressing over the breakfast menu. Scrolling through his phone, he spots a terrifying threat from Bakyu Hyune, promising to decapitate anyone who touches Mina. Right on cue, a massive explosion rips through the air outside. He and his demon follower spin around, totally on guard. Out of the smoke, a heavily armored warrior slowly approaches. The intruder demands to know where Mina is. It is indeed Bakyu Hyune, a 26-year-old pyromancer with insane transcendence potential. Stunned, Ilshin asks if this is really him. The sword demon is absolutely furious at how this punk addresses his master. He demands the intruder show proper respect to the almighty sword god. But the redhead has zero clue who that is. Sighing, the demon calls him an uncultured child. He decides to troll him, claiming the little girl he is searching for was easily beaten by his master and is now entirely dependent on him. Yu Hyune absolutely loses his mind, assuming the worst, and threatens to tear our hero apart, but the demon just keeps poking the bear, telling him they are not afraid of some barking dog. Telling his master to stand back, the demon confidently declares he will handle this trash. He leaps forward, raising his massive sword for a devastating, heavy-handed strike. But Yu Hyune casually blocks the giant blade with a single hand. Talk about a flex. He thrusts his palm forward, blasting the demon with a massive, roaring torrent of fire. The demon crashes to the ground, completely charred. Ilshin stands there in shock, and before he can blink, the pyromancer vanishes, reappearing instantly to grab our hero by the throat. He demands to know where Mina is, and what that charred idiot meant. Ilshin is utterly paralyzed by the raw, burning hatred in his voice. It feels like facing a literal dragon. That is because this guy possesses the soul of a red dragon. As his grip tightens, the heat becomes unbearable. Our hero realizes that if he does not act fast, his face is going to melt. Desperate, he activates his crushing god finger skill. The fiery warrior gets even angrier, but suddenly, his body starts acting super weird. He realizes he cannot move a single muscle. His fierce dragon glare instantly dissolves into pure confusion. He panics, asking what kind of cheap magic this is. With a casual flick of his finger, Ilshin tells him to take a hike. The dragon phantom literally covers its eyes in shame as it slowly starts to fade. Yu Hyune is completely baffled. His terrifying flaming sword is suddenly looking pathetic and weak. Furious, the redhead glares at our hero, asking if he did this. Ilshin naturally plays dumb, acting clueless. But first, he politely asks the guy to let go of his neck. His neck is super sensitive, and that grip is still burning. Meanwhile, the recovering sword demon watches in absolute awe, deeply impressed that his lord can handle this freak so easily. But right as they are about to throw hands, Sun Mina storms out of the house. She screams at the top of her lungs for them to shut up, complaining that they are ruining her sleep. Seeing her, Yu Hyune immediately softens, asking if she is okay, but Mina just glares at him with pure disgust. And here is why things are about to get real funny. She spotted him grabbing Ilshin by the throat. Pointing a finger, she calls him a super bad man. Boom, his heart is instantly shattered to pieces. But she is not done yet. Mina's eyes glow, and she blasts him point blank. The shockwave sends the fiery warrior flying through the air, crashing hard into the dirt. Talk about a brutal rejection. He is somehow still conscious but shivering in pain. He weakly asks why she did that, but Mina completely ignores him, shouting her sister Mary's name instead. She runs straight to Ilshin, asking if he is okay. She actually mistakes our hero for her little sister. She gently pets his head, telling him not to worry, and pulls him into a tight hug. She promises to protect her little sister from the bad guys. Seeing her hug, another dude like this absolutely breaks Yu Hyune's heart, while she keeps stroking our hero's face. She asks if her sweet sis is hurt. Ilshin almost slips up and calls her big sis in return, but then he spots Yu Hyune crying on his knees. He remembers the rumors. Word on the street is that these two are actually dating. No wonder the poor guy is suffering so much. His own girlfriend does not even recognize him. Feeling bad, Ilshin decides to help. With a quick tap of his divine healing finger, he completely cures the broken fighter. The system confirms the heal. noting that despite being under level 8, the redhead can transcend. Sure, it cost 100 coins, but our hero realizes this is a golden opportunity. If he plays his cards right, he can recruit another overpowered S-class follower to his army. Yu-Hyune is looking at him with literal puppy dog eyes. Time to convert him into a loyal believer. The warrior is absolutely stunned, realizing this recovery magic defies all logic. Step 1 is building some trust. Ilshin steps up to clear the air and explain that this is all a massive misunderstanding. But before he can even finish his sentence, a deafening roar cuts him off. Helicopters are filling the sky, heading straight for them. Guess Yu-Hyun brought back up. But you and I know our hero has this totally under control. Just to be safe, he asks, and the redhead confirms he came alone. Ilshin knows there is no reason to lie, leaving him wondering who these mysterious people actually are. Could it be the Hunter Association's investigation unit, or bounty hunters looking for a quick payday? Either way, this is bad news. With a crowd this big, trouble is definitely brewing as the helicopters close in on them. As they hover nearby, several agents start leaping out. Ilshin watches closely, trying to figure out who they are, when suddenly, a very familiar face appears inside one of the choppers. It is the Academy director, looking incredibly grim. Miri is right there too, and the director probably thinks he is dealing with a kidnapper. Meanwhile, Mina gets super excited seeing her sister. You and I know our main character is sweating bullets, wondering how on earth he is going to explain this mess. A few hours later, he finally explains everything that happened, including the dark story he witnessed inside Mina's nightmares. Now Miri finally understands why her sister sealed her powers away. Emotional and tearful, the girls share a heartfelt hug, crying and declaring their love for one another. After their sweet moment, Uni approaches and hands Ilshin a B-class hunter license. Apparently, the director was super impressed when the boy summoned that absolutely monstrous flower. But as soon as they bring up the beast, Mina bolts away in pure terror. Still, his weird summoning skills are highly rated, landing him the license. Ilshin quickly realizes they are talking about his night-blooming rose. The director then asks if he wants a teaching job at the academy, but Choi immediately swoops in, offering to double the starting salary. Uni even shows him the actual numbers, and the boy's eyes instantly turn into dollar signs. Naturally, Ilshin accepts the offer to become an academy teacher. Cut to sometime later, at the Hunter Academy building, where Miri is absolutely glowing. She is bursting with excitement. Her classmate asks why, and she happily explains that someone very special is arriving today. Right on cue, the classroom door swings open and someone walks in. It is Ilshin, and he looks absolutely dead on his feet. The students instantly recognize him as the guy who one-shot teacher Gun-wook. They also wonder about the scary guy trailing behind him, who looks like a loyal follower. Ilshin explains he is just filling in while Gun-wook is on medical leave, which leaves the students incredibly confused. To stop their endless whispering, the sword demon slams his massive weapon onto the floor. He proudly announces himself as the teaching assistant, warning them that they should know it is an honor to be taught by the great sword god. Our main character tries to start the actual lesson, but Miri raises her hand, pointing out that Gun-wook taught physical education. Hearing that, the lazy new teacher tells them to just do self-study. This guy is just completely drained. In fact, after leaning on his desk for a couple of seconds, he instantly passes out. Honestly, can you blame him? The assistant orders everyone to shut up so they do not disturb the great god's slumber. The students quietly agree to behave, assuming this scary assistant must be an A-rank hunter. The next day, Ilshin arrives in the classroom and tells them that since exams are near, they must study. On the following day, it is pouring rain outside. Since they cannot go outside, the lazy teacher tells them to study in the classroom. And on day 3, even though the weather is absolutely beautiful, he orders them to study yet again. By now, Miri's classmate, Mongji, looks incredibly disappointed. Something is seriously wrong here. For 3 straight days, they have done nothing but self-study, while their awake teacher spends all his time playing some weird ant game on his phone. Talk about a slacker. Even during lunch, the girl is totally surprised. The teacher is casually eating with them, bragging about how amazing it is to get free school meals. With a deadpan expression, the lazy guy asks Mongji why she is barely touching her food. Miri is still completely enchanted by Ilshin, but Mongji thinks she must be blind. You and I can probably see why as she decides to ask her friend about this weird teacher. Miri asks if she is talking about teacher Yu Ilshin. The girl smiles and says she just thinks he has a very special charm. Checking her phone, she mentions that her sister and Ilshin must be waiting. Miri waves goodbye to Mongji, who is shocked to see her classmate hanging out with the teacher after school. Right then, Mongji vows to uncover his secret appeal. The following day, the teacher finally gathers everyone, announcing they are trading self-study for some actual combat practice. Mongji grins, thinking this is her perfect chance to beat this guy like a dog, but Ilshin immediately crushes her dreams, saying the sword demon will run the drills because he is too sleepy. Annoyed that this slacker is already planning another nap, Mongji decides to act. She raises her hand, calling out to the teacher and claiming she does not have a sparring partner. Ilshin does the math and realizes the class has 21 students. He never really thought about it. The girl steps forward and demands that Professor Ilshin be her partner. The sword demon calls her incredibly bold, but the girl just taunts him, asking if they are scared. Surprisingly, Ilshin agrees. Uni did warn him that she would cut his pay and charge him for school lunch if he slacked off too much. He needs to at least look busy. Although, he whispers this. The sharp-eared student hears every single word. She glares at him with pure contempt, sending a chilly vibe through the room that everyone can feel. She quietly whispers back, promising to utterly destroy this lazy, wage-stealing fraud. Ilshin thinks she is incredibly brazen, but he admits she is not wrong. He really has done nothing but sleep. But he has a great excuse. See, he gave up his comfortable bed to the two sisters to help Mina recover. However, sleeping on the hard floor is not even the worst part. He literally cannot sleep because of the two absolute freeloaders crashing beside him. Even though they are prestigious S-class hunters and Korea's hope, they are acting like complete bums. He even asked Yu Hyun why he was not sleeping at his own home, but after downing bottles of alcohol, the man was dead to the world. For an entire week, these two have crashed at his place, drinking daily. Honestly, they will use any random excuse to pop a bottle. If it rains, it is the perfect drinking weather. If it is sunny, well, that is obviously another great reason to drink. Ilshin was genuinely worried this bad influence would mess up Mina's recovery, but she actually found their drunken antics hilarious. But while those two freeloaders slept like logs, poor Ilshin was the one Mina would beg for food whenever she got hungry. He ended up as the official chef for the entire house, dragged to the kitchen once again to whip up a fresh batch of kimchi fried rice. Between cooking, drinking, and babysitting Mina all week, he has had zero shut-eye. But right as he is in the middle of cooking, something catches Mina's eye. One of the drunkard's phones is vibrating like crazy until a massive news alert pops up. It announces that Sergei, an S-class hunter, has been brutally murdered in Gangan province. This could signal the arrival of a devastating disaster-rank beast. Looking closely at the article's photo, there is some creepy writing on the wall. It is definitely not Sergei's handwriting, but a message written in an African language that translates to, "A sacrifice to God." Realizing the danger, the two hunters instantly teleport away right as the food is served. Ilshin just sighs and hands Mina her plate, telling her to eat up and get ready. Usually, when he heads out, he leaves Mina with teacher Uni, and they get along beautifully. Still, he is determined to do his best today. His opponent, Go Mungunji, is a 19-year-old student with rare necromancer abilities, which actually manages to impress our lazy main character. The girl confidently declares she is starting the fight, summoning her subordinate Hades to awaken. Ilshin immediately recognizes the name as the legendary ruler of the underworld in Greek mythology. Mungji begins channeling her mana to activate her summoning skills. A massive, towering figure materializes right behind her. The summon is absolutely colossal and radiates immense power. Alright, you and I are starting with Zombie Hades, a 7th-ranked underworld summon. Ilshin is actually excited because this monster looks fun. Just as the blow is about to land, he braces his steel body. But right before the impact, something weird happens and he looks up. Hades completely freezes mid-swing. Mongji is totally confused and demands to know what is going on, but the giant undead warrior just freezes, drops to his knees and bows in absolute respect. He says he is deeply honored to meet such a supreme being. Mongji is losing her mind because a summon is supposed to obey its master. The rest of the class is just as stunned, thinking their teacher somehow hacked the summoning system. The sword demon nods, saying this is classic behavior for the great sword god. Annoyed, Mongji starts punching her. Summon, looking like a tiny angry squirrel picking a fight with a massive tiger. Ilshin tries to play along with a fake battle to save face, but the zombie is like, no way, that is way too disrespectful. Instead, Hades explains he can feel the aura of his true master, the legendary giant, inside Ilshin. Suddenly, our main character remembers this zombie used to be that very giant's loyal knight. Instinctively, he pats the undead head, just like the giant god used to do. Instantly, a wave of memories floods Ilshin's brain. Back in the day, Hades was not a rotting corpse, but a proud knight who adored the giant god. Sadly, he failed to protect his priestess, lost his life, and turned into a bitter zombie wandering the underworld for ages until Mungji summoned him. Honestly, the tragic backstory gets our guy a bit emotional. Suddenly, a game prompt pops up asking if he wants to recruit this fallen knight. Without hesitation, he clicks yes. Just like that, Ilshin inherits the giant's loyal follower, with an option to upgrade him. The system then asks if he wants to spend his divine energy to evolve the undead knight. Our main character is super impressed by this feature and decides to hit the upgrade button immediately. Instantly, divine power surges through his veins, and zombie Hades begins to glow with a blinding golden light. But the next second, the summon starts screaming in absolute agony as the massive power takes over. The students are completely speechless, realizing they are witnessing a literal miracle. Even our main character is shocked to see an evolution happening right before his eyes. In the middle of the ring, the zombie continues to radiate intense, wild energy. As he stands up, his entire body starts mutating. His dead skin changes color, strange glowing runes appear, and his face transforms into something much more terrifying. It becomes a pure, menacing skull, and boom, the basic zombie giant has officially evolved into the nocturnal Hades paladin. Watching from the sidelines, Yi is amazed by how incredible this kid really is. The system screen notes that this newly upgraded paladin can still transcend even further. The moment the transformation finishes, the giant knight drops to his knees right in front of Ilshin. He offers his deep thanks and vows to protect him forever. Now, you and I are looking at a guy who suddenly has 4 S-tier believers capable of transcending. Mungji is absolutely stunned he can speak, but as the hype settles, the massive power drain hits Ilshin hard. His vision goes blurry, his legs give out, and he starts falling. Panicking, the sword demon and Miri jump the ring's railings. They rush to their master's side as he turns deathly pale. But Hades tells them to relax, explaining that the young master is just fast asleep. The worried followers finally catch their breath. The sword demon promises to guard him while he rests. It turns out, evolving such a high-tier creature consumed way more divine power than Ilshin realized, sending him straight to dreamland. But honestly, it is a pretty sweet dream. He wakes up resting his head on the lap of a gorgeous goddess, radiating divine beauty. Our guy thinks the goddess of infinite abundance is being incredibly generous today. Thanks to his new skills, he can now meet his followers directly in this dream space. The goddess tells him he pushed his power way too far and needs to rest up to recover. As she gently strokes his hair, a warm golden light flows from her fingertips, making him feel absolutely amazing. He is basically in heaven, totally unaware that a literal demon is currently approaching. Meanwhile, Yi is working on her computer while Mina waits around, complaining about how bored she is and asking when the class will end. But before she gets an answer, she gets a mischievous idea. Knowing she would get bored, she brought a special little case in her backpack. She taps on the box and asks the mysterious creature trapped inside if it wants some sweet candy. Instantly, the box starts shaking like crazy. Mina laughs and teases it, saying she was just kidding and is not giving it any. Uni sighs, seriously wishing the old, slightly rude Mina was back. She starts wondering how her dad and Yu-hun are doing with their mission, since Mina would actually be a huge help. Suddenly, a sharp scream and a dropped lollipop cut her thoughts short. Mina is standing right in front of Uni, shaking like a leaf. She has this look of pure terror on her face and just keeps repeating the word no over and over again. Uni thinks she is just crying over the dropped candy and tells her they have plenty more. But Mina grabs her in a tight, terrified hug, shivering and whispering that a monster is coming. Meanwhile, a mysterious hooded guy stands right outside the building, muttering that the sacrifices are hiding inside. He mentions there are 2 seeds for the abyssal dragon, but one is still unripe. 2 bypassers find this sketchy guy highly suspicious and decide to call him over to check things out. One of the security guards walks up to warn him that he cannot be hanging around like that. The guard puts a hand on his shoulder and asks to see some identification. But in a literal blink of an eye, the hooded intruder moves, brutally ripping the guard's head right off. The other guards panic and charge at the intruder, but he is just too fast, slicing right past them. He delivers fatal strikes before they can even get a glimpse of his face. With a simple wave of his hand, he obliterates the remaining guards and shatters the entire floor with ridiculous ease. The massive explosion echoes throughout the building, shaking the walls. Debris rains down all around him as he coldly asks where the sacrifices are hiding. He keeps walking as the alarms start blaring, red lights flashing everywhere. He mutters that everyone else is trash. The local warriors rush in and try to surround him, but as they close in, a strange golden energy starts radiating from the hooded man. Suddenly, his eyes lock onto something and his expression shifts. Spotting Sunung Miri, he smiles a creepy, villainous grin, realizing he just found exactly what he wanted. He calls her the unripe sacrifice and completely blasts the guard team away. They are sent flying down the stairs, leaving everyone in absolute shock and wondering who this crazy invader is. The hooded man just walks forward, destroying literally everything in his path. He picks up a chunk of rock, calling them annoying little bugs, and crushes it into dust with zero effort. His eyes glow a menacing red as he orders everyone to die. He hurls a storm of sharp stone debris right at the crowd, wounding several warriors. A few massive rocks fly straight toward Miri and the sword demon, but the swordsman quickly reacts. He draws his blade, deflecting the incoming stones, but the sheer impact nearly knocks him back. Just then, an emergency broadcast orders everyone to run to the underground bunker immediately. They are told to avoid fighting at all costs, as the director and S-rank hunters are 10 minutes away. Miri tells the sword demon to get Ilshin to safety while she buys some time, but the sword demon suggests letting Hades handle the evacuation instead. Suddenly, the creepy hooded villain laughs, saying that is not going to happen, and a massive creature starts rising from the floor. A colossal, terrifying monster emerges, letting out an earth-shattering roar. The beast begins channeling raw power into its hands, creating a swirling vortex of energy that threatens to swallow the room. Miri and the sword demon watch in horror as a purple dome seals the entire building. The monster sneers that no one is coming to save them. Miri realizes it is a territory barrier, an advanced skill only king-class monsters can use. The sword demon tells her to run while he tries to distract this giant alligator. Stick with me, because things are about to get wild. He swings his blade, but the moment it hits, everything goes south. Boom, he gets blasted straight into the wall, taking massive damage. The annoyed monster is like, how did this demon dare challenge him? Then it turns to Mary, demanding to know where the sacrifice is. Instead of crying, the brave girl zaps the giant beast with a massive shock of electrical energy. Right then, inside the shelter, Mina is shaking like a leaf. Sensing her little sister is in deep trouble, she suddenly pulls a magic trick and completely vanishes into thin air. Meanwhile, Miri keeps spamming her lightning attacks, but the sword demon realizes it is not working and screams a warning. The tanky alligator shrugs it off and finally grabs her. He traps the poor girl in his giant claw. The beaten-up sword demon desperately prays to his god for forgiveness, having no other options left, while the beast slams Miri into the dirt. Gross tiny hands sprout from the beast's other palm, reaching for Miri. Just as she prays for her teacher, Mina teleports in and activates her mind control, commanding the beast to stop. The giant alligator looks at Mina, completely ignoring her command, but realizes the legendary dragon seed has finally shown up. Bad news though, her mind control is absolutely useless against him. Worse, the mysterious box in her backpack starts vibrating like crazy. Mina just yeets the bag away because it is too distracting, yelling that her sister is the only thing that matters right now. She tries casting another spell, but the beast whips its massive tail at lightning speed. It barely misses her, but the sheer shockwave blows her hair back as the tail wraps around her entire body. Lifting her high into the air, the boss alligator proudly claims she will make an excellent sacrifice. Mina keeps screaming at him to let go, but he completely ignores her. Instead, he declares the ritual is officially starting. Those creepy tiny fingers creep closer to Miri's terrified face. Feeling completely helpless, Mina starts sobbing, begging for a miracle to happen. She screams the main character's name, Ilshin, with every ounce of breath left in her lungs. Meanwhile, miles away, our glorious hero is still taking a cozy nap, totally lost in dreamland. But, the moment his name is shouted, he snaps out of it, sensing a major disturbance in the force. He tells his companion he has to leave, but she warns him he is way too weak. The bad guy's boss is a literal god of destruction, but Ilshin does not care. Back on the battlefield, a mysterious hand reaches for Mina's discarded backpack while she keeps screaming for help. She panics as the giant reptile squeezes her sister even tighter. The boss alligator smugly announces it is dinner time for his god, but out of nowhere, swish, a clean, blinding slash. A giant, scaly tail goes flying and splats right on the floor. As the beast howls in absolute agony over its lost tail, a mysterious figure is suddenly seen holding little Miri safely. It is Gustav, the legendary apostle of the unknown god who has been harvesting SS ranks for 85 years. Surrounded by a red aura, the overpowered protagonist stands holding Miri. He keeps mumbling that he really wants to slice up some crocodile meat. Miri barely recognizes her own teacher. He gently sets her down and struts toward the beast, grinning like a psycho. The boss monster actually starts shaking, but tries to play it cool by calling him a sewer rat and charging forward. Ilshin just casually slips past every single heavy strike. Just as a giant fist is about to flatten him, he leaps, pulls off a flawless backflip, and starts laughing like a maniac while holding a tiny kitchen knife. The monster opens its massive jaws to swallow him whole, but Ilshin spins in midair, slicing the alligator's mouth wide open with one swift, stylish move. Talk about absolute flex. The beast snaps its mouth shut with enough force to shatter steel, only to realize he missed completely. Why? Because our smug hero is literally standing right on top of his nose. He literally licks the blood off his knife, whispering that he just wants to chop things up. Then, he zigs and zags right up the giant monster's body, eyes glowing demon red. The sword demon just stands there leaning against a pillar, watching this absolute madness unfold. The heavily bleeding alligator is already looking completely exhausted from trying to hit him, but our hero just holds up his tiny blade, telling him the fun has barely started. The yellow-eyed beast glares back, admitting the kid is tough, but there is a catch. It has not even revealed its final form yet. Ilshin just smiles, absolutely thrilled, while the monster rants about how pleasing the boy's death will be to the god of destruction. The beast's massive arm starts glowing with dark, edgy energy. Unbothered, the savior of eternity raises his butter knife and literally begs the boss to show him some real strength. The savior of eternity is super annoyed that he is using cheap blades instead of raw muscles, while Soundless Nightmare cheerfully cheers him on with carnivorous flowers. Truly helpful, guys. But when Ilshin looks back at the boss, the guy has completely transformed. He is much smaller now, looking super creepy, and he is literally picking his nose. Talk about a weird final form. Unimpressed by this nose-picking menace, Ilshin leaps in and slashes with his tiny knife. But guess what? It does absolutely zero damage. His blade cannot even scratch this new skin. Naturally, the literal sword god finds this highly offensive. Refusing to back down, Ilshin unleashes a rapid-fire flurry of attacks, slicing at the black alligator from every single angle. Dozens of cuts land in a millisecond, but suddenly, the boss catches his arm mid-swing. He mocks the tiny sword, laughing that it could never pierce a divine dragon, before winding up a fist. He delivers a brutal punch straight to the gut. Ilshin coughs up blood, flying backward like a rag doll before crashing into the stone wall with an earth-shattering boom. Ouch, that hurt. The boss walks up to the dazed hero, who is temporarily pinned to the ground. Without wasting a single second, he palisades Ilshin's head in his massive hand, ready to finish him. He readies his creepy little sacrifice hand, wrapping it in dark energy to end the ritual. But our boy's eyes snap open. He is definitely not planning on dying today. The boss is ready to pull the trigger. Ilshin tries to activate his legendary pinky healing skill, but a red system notification pops up, not enough divine energy. Seriously? Game? Running out of options, he scrambles for a plan while another massive warning screen flashes on his face. Warning, you are about to die. Thanks, system. Very helpful. A whole flood of red alerts spam his vision, reiterating that his life force is critically low. Meanwhile, the alligator squeezes his head, causing his vision to go completely blurry. Just as his consciousness starts fading, a shadowy warrior teleports right behind the beast. It is Hades, stepping up to protect his master. But unfortunately, the rescue attempt fails immediately. He gets punched away like a minor mob. Seeing his summon fail, Ilshin seriously starts regretting becoming a god, wishing he had just minded his own business and ignored the crisis. But then, Ilho screams for him to stand up, while Auntie prays with everything she has. Their desperate voices echo in his head. His loyal followers are literally begging him to survive. Even the sword demon feels bad for being absolutely useless right now. But guess what? Their tears and prayers actually start refueling his divine battery. Too bad the sacrifice hand is literally millimeters away from his face. Suddenly, his skill-sharing locks are released, unlocking 2 epic new abilities. In a split second, our hero grips his knife with steady resolve. He slices right through the alligator's arm, completely severing it. As the boss stares at his bleeding stump in shock, Ilshin triggers his sword god skill share, unlocking full-blown demon mode. Meanwhile, outside the barrier, the director and Yuyun are desperately trying to break in, while Choi is getting super annoyed because Korea's entire S-class roster is finally showing up. Redhead thinks they need a miracle to survive this. But suddenly, a massive crack splits the dome, weakening the shield. Our boy Ilshin finally moves again, recovering his lost power, and he begins to make bizarre, confusing movements that completely baffle the giant alligator. With a maniacal look, the boy declares he wants to slice everything, launching sharp fragments at his opponent. They fly like deadly missiles straight at the beast. The monster tries to defend himself, admitting this kid is actually dangerous, until the chaotic barrage finally stops. The giant alligator watches him intently, waiting for the boy's next move, but checking his body, he finds 0 wounds and asks what just happened. Ilshin simply smiles and repeats that he sliced everything, which absolutely triggers the giant. He lunges forward to throw a massive punch, but suddenly notices something wrong as his waist feels completely loose. A terrible wound has been ripped into his belly, and both of his shoulders slide right off his body. The beast screams in pure agony and rage as the barrier around the building begins to glow brightly, detonating like an actual bomb. The alligator lies defeated on the ground. Trying to crawl away, he asks how the kid dared do this. But looking into his eyes, the monster senses a chilling shift. It is like he finally understands that this boy represents the raw essence of nature. Ilshin is shrouded in a glowing halo, and the monster feels that this is the first time he has desperately wanted to run away from a foe. This is no ordinary enemy, this is a majestic, godlike being. His last arm turns to ash as Ilshin makes just one decisive motion. Golden lightning wraps around him as our main character completely vaporizes Gustav, the apostle of the god of destruction. The defeated apostle counts as a sacrifice worth 5 S-class souls. Having finished the task, the boy falls to his knees while his demon quest progresses a bit. The director finally manages to approach the boy and screams his name. Terrified, the man begs him not to die, but Ilshin's arm falls limp. He is completely out of strength. Choi screams in panic as Yu-Yun realizes the extreme gravity of this situation. Hades steps up and informs them that his master is merely sleeping. They are utterly baffled, but our hero has entered another dream once again. This time, man-eating plants cover the bizarre landscape. This is the realm of the soundless nightmare, and our boy is lying deep inside the jaws of a giant carnivorous flower. The nightmare tells him that as long as he is bathed in its saliva, no deadly poison or curse can harm him, but it warns him that he only has one single chance left. Then, it begins to move its massive tongue, sending Ilshin sliding down into its dark throat, deeper into the flower. Suddenly, the boy bolts awake from the terrifying dream, finding Mina right by his side. She tells him he has been out cold for a whole week, though to him, it felt like a lifetime. She leans in, asking if he is okay and saying it seems like he had a bad dream. Suddenly, a notification announces that son Mina's wish has come true, making her his devoted believer. She is a top-tier follower, worth 2 S-class souls. This makes our hero super hyped and optimistic. Then, a wild notification suggests he ask her for a kiss, hinting she would gladly do it. Ilshin blushes red instantly, but out of nowhere, a huge monster crashes in, totally ruining the mood. The startled pair back away, and Mina clings to him in fear. But wait, it is just a giant fish offering from Illo. The beast just wants his awesome god to eat well and get better. Relieved, Ilshin realizes there is no danger, wondering what the hell Ilho is doing. Hearing the noise, Choi runs to check what happened and bursts in shocked, while Miri and the sword demon follow close behind. Trying to break the tension, Ilshin casually asks if they want some shark fin for lunch, and using his crushing god's index finger, he flicks the massive beast right out the window. Choi and Miri stare in disbelief as the boy claims it is completely fresh since he caught it himself. Sometime later, we are in room 33 of the academy. Accompanied by his loyal follower, an anxious Ilshin enters while the students start whispering that this new teacher is the association's secret weapon. They rumor he destroyed the double S-class monster while everyone else hid. But no matter how quietly they gossip, our boy hears everything. Suddenly, the sword demon slams his heavy weapon onto the floor, demanding everyone bow down and worship the great sword god. Mongji, the class president, immediately orders the students to bow, and the entire room gives him a highly respectful bow. Ilshin is touched, as this is the first time anyone has shown him such respect. After dealing with Gustav, he is glad the kids are all in such fantastic spirits. The teacher happily welcomes them back, saying it is time for a quiet study hall. But in reality, this lazy teacher just wants to write his own book while they read. Seeing their disappointed faces, however, he quickly says he is only kidding and announces he will evaluate each of them, one by one. The next student in line is a rather large girl named Hojo, who sits down ready for her turn. She is 19 years old and looks perfectly healthy, but on the inside, her energy is completely warped and chaotic. Ilshin uses his counseling session to secretly heal her. Not exactly standard physical education, but he tells her to stay still and uses his healing pinky finger. A warm green energy surges through her. Feeling her physical sensitivity shoot up to twice its normal rate, a shocked Hojo asks how he did that. But, honestly, he only did a quick, minor fix on her blood flow. As he calls the next student, his expression shifts when Miri and the sword demon demand counseling as well. But, Ilshin tells them they both should be home training. The demon argues that this is entirely different from schoolwork, and while the teacher agrees, he sighs and decides to give in, asking who wants to go first. Both fanatical followers try to jump in at once, sparking a hilarious, jealous shouting match. To try and restore order, the teacher offers to heal them both at the same time. But suddenly, a notification pops up with a desperate prayer from his devoted ant followers. The ants are gathered together, begging their god to save them from a threat they are too weak to fight. Instantly, more notifications begin spamming his screen. Every single one warns of an extreme danger level. This is a highly urgent crisis unfolding in Antria. A massive army of dark creatures is attacking. legions of terrible monsters are marching toward his followers, led by the Apostle of the Abyssal Swamp, summoned by the evil goddess Arachne, alongside the Apostle of Power and Deception. To make things even worse, the devastating Apostle of the Fire that shines in the sky is also here, wielding world-ending flames. Ilshin is horrified to find 3 major apostles cooperating. Each is easily as strong or stronger than Gustav. And if he does nothing, all his ants will be completely wiped out. He has only 78 hours before Arachne's elite forces arrive, and on top of these giant bosses, millions of other monsters are coming. Our hero realizes this is basically like spraying bug spray on his tiny followers. He almost died fighting just one Gustav. How is he supposed to stop an entire army? As the boy suddenly goes quiet, Miri and the sword demon find it highly unusual. With an unstoppable army ready to wreak havoc, Ilshin starts to panic, feeling utterly trapped. But he remembers his lower god quest, and a brilliant plan suddenly flashes in his mind. His 2 followers are left completely dazed and confused, and Miri whispers that the boy has already gone entirely crazy. The ongoing quest to become a lower-level demon is still in play, and he knows his first priority is farming more believers. Meanwhile, we see Choi sitting alone in the school cafeteria, deeply lost in thought, and stuffing his face like an absolute beast. Finally, Ilshin tracks him down, sliding into the seat next to him with his best friendly smile. The director just keeps on chewing in dead silence. Suddenly, a notification pops up, and you and I get to see that this giant actually respects our main character for saving his daughter. Leaning in, the boy asks for a massive favor. They whisper in low tones to keep their conversation private. Choi listens intently while stuffing his face, but suddenly he explodes into roaring laughter, shouting that he will do whatever the boy wants because he trusts him. Even though the request is incredibly weird, Kangen just stays focused on his plate. The system notification describing him does not change one bit. And once their little secret meeting wraps up, Miri nudges her sister, telling her to stop staring at the director and actually eat. Meanwhile, Ilshin is laser-focused on his low-level god quest. Thanks to Mina, he only needs 4 more believers. He absolutely has to finish this mission to ascend, but he is totally baffled. Why did his talk with the director fail to trigger the system? Desperate times call for desperate measures. The boy begs Kangen, asking if he needs help with literally anything. But the director gets suspicious, flatly stating that even though he trusts him, he is never letting him near his beloved daughter. The 2 sisters catch every single word of this awkward exchange. The director keeps ranting that a match between them will never happen, even if the world ends. This absurd conversation makes Mina incredibly irritated. Ilshin desperately tries to deny the crazy accusation, but the director suddenly snaps. He slams his spoon onto the table, demanding to know if the boy thinks his precious daughter is not his type. After that dramatic outburst, the man cools down and changes the subject. He asks if the professor has been using his unique healing abilities on the academy students. This is the perfect opening for our hero. Ilshin mentions he has been treating Mina too, and she has recovered beautifully. With the bait hooked, the boy casually asks if there is anyone close to the director who needs healing. The director lowers his head, asking in a heartbroken voice if someone on the brink of death can actually be saved. Boom! Just like that, a brand new S-Class quest for Choi Kang is created. Our main character is totally stunned. The goal? Heal Choi's dearest friend and prove the absolute, infinite power of a true god. The boy realizes he absolutely cannot afford to fail this. He insists they try to save her immediately. Cut to a massive, heavily guarded hospital room. There, lying on a bed covered in beautiful flowers, is a mysterious woman with long, snowy white hair. Ilshin is shocked by how incredibly young she looks. Seeing the massive question mark floating over the boy's head, the director chuckles and asks what he is staring so hard at. He explains that Miracle literally does not age, only her hair turned white. She is not just a friend, she is a legendary heroine who has protected South Korea for her entire life using her powers. She predicted the future to save millions. Suddenly, strange energy glows around her body. Ilshin realizes the power is flowing from the flowers, which Choi explains are keeping her alive. She is absorbing their life force just to survive. Countless elite healers have tried to cure her and failed. Looking at her fragile body, our protagonist resolves to give it a shot. The system identifies her as Lee Mira, currently kept in a frozen state to preserve her fading life. Curiously, Ilshin cannot view her age, which has never happened to him before. Suddenly, a playful voice echoes in his head, teasing that asking a lady her age is incredibly rude. Choi instantly realizes the boy has been pulled straight into her mental world. Placing a firm hand on his shoulder, the director wishes him luck. In a flash, our hero is warped to a breathtaking dreamscape. There she is, Miracle, fully awake and smiling. She spots her new visitor and gives him a warm greeting. Ilshin wonders if he is dreaming, but the overwhelming power here is too real. It is vastly stronger than Mina's energy. Approaching her, he asks to confirm if she is indeed Lee Mira. With a nod, she reveals she already knows his name, calling him the long-awaited Chosen One. In her visions, he was supposed to be the ultimate incarnation of pure evil. Instead, he looks like a gentle, nerdy kid. Ilshin is not sure if he should feel insulted or flattered. She sighs, admitting she would gladly surrender her remaining life just to escape this incurable sickness. She is only trapped in this mental realm because her real, physical body is basically dead, but she desperately wanted to meet him face to face, hence the mental invite. The boy asks her to release him so he can perform the healing. Clock is ticking, he only has 68 hours left. Miracle claims a cure is impossible, but invites him to try using his skills anyway. Since his divine aura is surprisingly massive, she figures there is no harm in letting him take a shot. Curious, he activates his ring finger of the healing god. Instantly, vibrant green energy wraps around Miracle, as the system begins calculating the massive cosmic causality of the heal. But the system ruthlessly shuts him down, declaring the action failed. Her affliction requires way more divine power than he currently possesses. The boy's face falls in bitter disappointment. As her feet gently touch the ground again, the glowing green energy fades away. If he cannot find a way to boost his divine power, this critical quest is going to end in failure. Miracle flutters her eyes open, but immediately collapses to her knees. Still, she looks up at Ilshin with a soft, trusting smile, whispering that she genuinely believes in him. Even though she is young and godless, she bets her entire fate on this boy. Ding! Lee Mira officially becomes his fifth believer, pushing his god ascension quest one step closer to completion. Though completely unexpected, he is thrilled by the progress. Miracle tells him that if he can save this small world, he will eventually save hers. Ilshin wonders if she means the realm of Antria. She smiles warmly, promising to eagerly wait for the day he is truly ready. Suddenly, her projection starts fading away, but she leaves him with a clue the solution is closer than he thinks. She vanishes, leaving him thoroughly stressed. But then, a notification rings. He has just unlocked a piece of Mira's power, a brand new skill called Premonition Dream. Basically, he can see the future now. Too bad he lacks the raw divine power to actually use it yet. Classic. Suddenly, the world spins, and he feels his consciousness getting snapped right back into his physical body. He wakes up, slumped over Miracle's hospital bed, gasping for air. Choi rushes over, asking if he is all right, while the boy breaks into a cold sweat over her cryptic warning. Meanwhile, over at the academy gym, our underworld god Hades is casually shooting hoops with some students. On the phone, our hero laments that his mission with the principal was a total bust, so he plans to scan the entire area instead, ordering all his requested materials to arrive by tomorrow. Sad reality check, his entire teacher's salary is already completely eaten up by rent and loans. Poor guy. Looking up, Ilshin spots the sword demon pulling off some bizarre martial arts moves in the corner. The demon is practicing with that ridiculously heavy sword bought from a shady merchant. Remember, he coughed up 20 million coins just to upgrade this demon to S-class status. Plus, he got a secret technique book containing the legendary martial arts essence of Jiang Sambong. But the picky demon rejected it, claiming fancy techniques do not fit his extreme raw power style. So yeah, our main character got totally scammed. Talk about a waste of good money. Yet, his loyal follower is still putting in some serious work. He swings that massive, heavy blade effortlessly with a single hand. Nearby, a pair of starry eyes is watching his every move in awe. It is Myungji, completely distracted from her game, her eyes sparkling like a classic romance webtoon. The demon tells her to stop staring and step closer. She blushingly asks if he wants water. He brutally crushes her heart, revealing he was talking to the person behind her. Savage rejection. You and I can only watch in absolute pity. All right, you and I are watching this guy point his finger at the monster, desperately needing some manners. The demon warns that today is different, and he will absolutely crush him, while Ilshin watches with deep curiosity. He knows it is virtually impossible for an A-class hunter to beat an S-class, but if Hades defeats the sword demon, he might just level up. Honestly, this crazy sword demon could be the answer to everything. Right then, the two followers clash in a brutal fight. Our sword demon has already pushed the heavenly demon divine sword to its absolute limit, pouring every ounce of his strength into one massive vertical strike. Frozen in his stance, he cannot even see where his opponent went before a sudden blow strikes the back of his neck. Hades admits the kid had a decent plan, but it is still nowhere near enough to drop him. Totally frustrated, the young man vows he will still get him before instantly collapsing. Hades catches him on his shoulder, muttering that the kid will catch up soon, assuming he actually survives this, of course. Hades announces he is taking the sword demon to the clinic, while Mongji chases after them, begging to tag along. Meanwhile, Ilshin watches, realizing the sword demon is definitely destined to reach S-class one day. The only real question is when that will happen. Ilshin takes a quick sip from his bottle just as a system screen pops up, announcing that his Godmaker assimilation rate has slightly increased. This means his raw power is slowly growing. But seriously, he has chugged about 2,000 bottles of this potion, and his rate only went up by 1%. Talk about a brutal grind. Meanwhile, Mina is busy. She is completely locked in, casting a skill on her sister to break Miri's seal. But the process looks agonizing, causing the poor girl insane pain. Both sisters are clearly struggling to survive the procedure. Eventually, Mina completely runs out of juice. Wiping the sweat from her forehead, she gasps that she is fine. This gets Ilshin thinking maybe the ultimate solution to his problems is actually Miri, not the sword demon. But the moment our main character walks over, Mina remembers that conversation she eavesdropped on between him and the director. Instantly annoyed, she scowls and turns her face away. Ilshin asks her what is wrong, but she just snaps back, yelling at him to stop calling her young lady and just use her actual name. Realizing he is stepping into a total relationship minefield, our hero panics. To smooth things over, he offers her a luxury room, and her mood flips in a heartbeat. She happily runs off toward her lollipop. Meanwhile, that quest from the lower-level god is still ticking away. If Miri and the sword demon can reach S-class, he will have exactly 10 followers at that rank. The catch? Time is running out fast. He only has 48 hours left, prompting him to call his student over. He tells Miri he has to step away for a bit, asking her to look after the sword demon once he wakes up. He explains that he has some deeply important business to attend to. Naturally, she asks what this vital mission is. With a massive grin, he tells her he needs to take a nap. He stretches and heads to bed, but suddenly spots a familiar sword hilt lying in his path. It is the heavenly sword. This is exactly the solution Miracle talked about. Straightening his sheets, he decides to initiate some absolutely hellish training with the Dream Chasers. Since time flows way slower in dreams, those 48 hours can stretch into over 3 months of intense training. In no time, our hero is warped straight into the temple of the heavenly sword. There, the massive god sits on his throne. This is the domain of the legendary weapon that can slice through anything, and it is his first time seeing him face to face. He locks eyes with intense focus. He remembers nearly passing out during their first meeting, but he pushes that thought aside. He asks the god about repairing his broken knife, which got absolutely shattered during his clash against Gustav. The heavenly sword scoffs, saying the repairs will take time unless he wants to rent a replacement weapon. But there is a catch: he has to cough up 1 million coins. That is a massive price hike. The god claims it is just insurance in case he breaks the loaner weapon. Left with no other options, he agrees to pay up, though he highly suspects the god is just scamming him for cash. Now, here is where you and I get to see what a 1,000,000 coin weapon actually looks like. Once the payment clears, a glowing rift tears open in the wall, revealing a brilliant shining sword. Ilshin asks if this is a joke, but the god just grins as the weapon turns out to be a cheap wooden sword. Annoyed, our hero complains, telling him to at least deliver what he paid for, but the god warns him not to judge a book by its cover. This legendary wooden blade was carved from a plum tree and wielded by the founder of the Manhwa sect itself. Plus, it is 850 years old. Okay, that actually sounds pretty awesome. Since he is in a rush and already out of pocket, he decides to test it. Taking a deep breath, he activates the weapon, only for a system warning to pop up. The system states it will literally take a miracle to draw out even 50% of its true power. But the more he trains in his dreams, the more synced up he will get. Suddenly, the blade starts vibrating. If drawing out its power is supposed to be a miracle, he wonders why it is reacting so fast. But there is no time to think, as the all-cutting heavenly sword lunges at him out of nowhere. Ilshin raises his wooden blade and successfully blocks the heavy blow. He is absolutely shocked that he managed to stop it, while the god smirks and taunts him to throw a counterattack. Just like that, his remaining time drops to 30 hours. He realizes he has not landed a single hit since they started, with the god effortlessly blocking a mind-blowing 10,000 attacks in a row. Refusing to quit, he chugs a few more potions to keep going. After hours of grinding, exhaustion starts setting in. But through the fatigue, he finally spots a tiny opening in the god defense. He strikes immediately. Moving like a flash, he slips right past his opponent with a blinding straight slash. Caught completely off guard, the god cannot react in time, and our hero actually scores a hit. With a proud smirk, he celebrates his first successful strike. With only 20 hours and 30 seconds left on the clock, he immediately downs another potion. The god is genuinely impressed by his sheer persistence. He even asks if he can have a sip, but our boy flatly refuses to share. This instantly triggers the deity, sending him into a wild rage. Meanwhile, the eternal seeker of truth gets tired of waiting around. He decides it is his turn to train our hero, tossing Ilshin around like a literal ragdoll. In the middle of the absolute chaos, he accidentally drops one of his potion vials. Elsewhere, a massive muscle war begins. The eternal seeker of truth hardens his metal skin and prepares his whip, launching a merciless assault on the kid. No metaphors here, he literally has a whip, though he still complements our hero muscle gains. He starts off easy, ordering our boy to lift a massive 2-ton dumbbell. Pushing his limits, Ilshin tells himself this is all to protect his ants. Summoning every ounce of strength, he strains hard. He actually manages to lift the heavy weight, though he is clearly redlining his muscles. Even if it is only a couple of inches off the ground, he did it. The Eternal Savior genuinely applauds his massive effort. He advises the boy to quickly drink another potion to prevent any muscle breakdown, which he does instantly. More time flies by, and our hero is now down to his final 10 hours. Next up is the Soundless Nightmare, who announces it is his turn to train. But if our boy gets knocked out here, he will wake up in reality, and he cannot let that happen yet. An intense battle begins. He lands several clean strikes directly on the carnivorous flower, carving deep wounds into its stem. But the giant plant is incredibly tough. The Soundless Nightmare actually begs him to attack with way more aggression. More time slips away, until he has only 1 single minute left. His rate is stuck at 49%, and reaching 50% would require chugging another 2,000 potions, which is completely impossible right now. But with only 1 minute on the clock, you and I know our boy is not about to give up. He charges straight ahead, ready to pour all his energy into one final strike. Grasping his wooden blade with both hands, he prepares to unleash absolute chaos. A confident grin spreads across his face as he prepares to find out just how much stronger he has truly become. Moving like a literal bolt of lightning, he flashes clean past his opponent, slicing him wide open. The Soundless Nightmare is absolutely thrilled by this sheer violence, leaving the monster plant heavily wounded. After that brutal clash, Ilshin basically tells the Nightmare to stop acting like a massive masochist. Our totally exhausted hero is running on pure fumes, with only 1 second left. Suddenly, a notification pops up. It says his rate is stuck at 49.9%. Talk about a major scam since he needed 50. But right behind him, a sneaky carnivorous flower stem starts creeping closer. The monster closes in. It gets right in his face, whispering that it actually liked his last sword way better. And boom, the rate finally hits 50%. Now, our boy can directly mess with Godmaker's world of Antria. Honestly, Ilin thinks this is a total scam. He feels completely ripped off by the system. But with that rate spike, the physical and mental stats of all A-class followers get a massive buff. Suddenly, urgent warning screens start flashing everywhere, because the ultimate holy war for you Ilshin's fate has officially begun. Yet, our main character suddenly remembers a very important detail. He needs to run to the school roof because his online package just arrived. Meanwhile, over at the gates of the Antria Kingdom, a horde of terrifying monsters is making their grand, evil entrance. These beasts are acting under Lady Hyona's direct orders. She mocks the castle, laughing at how people call it indestructible, before ordering her commander Belub to launch the attack. This ugly monster promises he won't let his lady down, and his army of creepy lookalikes begins to march. The leader literally licks his blade, finding this whole invasion highly entertaining. Meanwhile, poor Auntie is sweating buckets, worried her divine powers won't be enough to stop this massive horde. But she vows to obey God's decree and stand her ground no matter what. Some soldiers whisper that Beelzebub's nasty curses of filth can melt solid stone. Right on cue, Belub starts praying to the god of pestilence to rain down rot upon the defenders. Glowing with a disgusting green light, the beast breathes out a deadly plague, wishing death upon everyone. The entire monster army joins in, unleashing their dark magic. But then, a massive rift rips open, a cosmic crack appears in the sky, and an absolutely colossal leg stomps right down into their ranks. Hyona freezes in pure shock, and her entire beast army instantly panics from the sheer pressure. The foot crushes a bunch of troops flat. Ilshin steps through the portal looking like a giant god, holding giant cans of bug spray. Smiling like a villain, he says his package arrived just in time. He aims the bug spray at the monsters, who think it is some legendary divine weapon of mass destruction. Belub starts shaking like a leaf as Ilshin locks eyes with him, glaring down with pure authority. The commander is absolutely terrified. He genuinely thinks they are all going to end up dead, and desperately prays to his god of filth for help. Meanwhile, Ilshin just looks at them like a bunch of annoying flies. Deeply disgusted, he prepares his crushing god's index finger and pulls the triggers on those giant spray cans. He manages this by combining his index finger's activation skill with a special ability, namely, the telekinesis he stole from Apostle John. Behold, his newest skill, Fly eradication. The moment that toxic chemical mist hits the bug monsters, they start dropping like, well, flies. Belub realizes it is toxic poison and screams for an immediate retreat. But it is too late. Even his metal crown starts melting off his head. This stuff is crazy fast and super potent. Countless monsters are instantly dissolved into green goo, leaving nothing but toxic fumes. The bugs on the ground freak out, yelling to stay away from the gas. But Hyona commands them to stop being cowards. She reminds them that the enemy is literally just one guy. Ilshin looks at the massive swarm, realizing there are enough bugs to blank out a city. But anyone breathing that chemical mist instantly dies. Frustrated, the bug leader screams at Ilshin that his cheap tricks won't save him again. Desperate, she calls upon her champion, the apostle of the beast of power and deception, demanding his ultimate strength. A giant monster with a tiger head answers the call, charging forward at insane speed. Ilshin just stands there, watching with a blank face. But then, this tiger beast sprouts two massive wings. They look exactly like dragon wings, and with one massive flap, they send a Category 5 hurricane straight at our hero. The wind speed is insane, closing in on Ilshin instantly. The wind blows the poisonous gas right back toward Ilshin's own tiny allies. Thinking fast, our boy realizes he has to act now. He readies his crushing index finger and prepares his telekinesis. But the gas gets completely swept away by the monster's storm anyway. Our hero starts crying over all the money he wasted on that bug spray. Meanwhile, Hyona is just annoyed by his face. Ilshin admits this apostle is pretty strong since his ants barely survived. But the overgrown toothy cat isn't done yet. The tiger beast opens its giant jaws and starts slaughtering its own side's troops. He is harvesting them for sacrificial offerings. Ilshin realizes how savage his enemy is, sacrificing allies just to stack up power buffs. This ruthless blood sacrifice is exactly how Hyona charges up. To boost her divine power, the goddess immediately orders her giant dragonflies to release the blind troops. Our boy is still crying because that stupid toothy cat made his expensive insecticide completely useless. Super annoyed about his bank account, he decides he's going to obliterate this overgrown tiger. He charges up his lethal index finger again. But suddenly, something massive catches his eye on the horizon. An absolute swarm of giant dragonflies is flying right toward him. But wait, it gets worse. Creepy blindfolded warrior insects are riding on top of them, ready to drop down. These blind soldiers have insanely strong, bone-crushing jaws that can chew through metal. They leap off their flying rides directly at Ilshin, creating a terrifying rain of bugs falling from the sky. Faced with this buggy avalanche, our boy activates his rigid body defense. The insect army swarms over him, biting and slashing with their jaws, but their teeth just can't penetrate his skin. This makes the eternal seeker of truth incredibly hyped. Thanks to this buff, Ilshin's flesh is now harder than solid iron. But the falling bug soldiers do not care at all. They keep hammering against him like heavy raindrops in a storm. Soon, our boy is completely buried under a mountain of bugs, but he manages to keep one crucial finger free for a second. That is all the time he needs to activate God's conviction extinction. Freeing his thumb next, he unleashes the power of the god of proliferation. Instantly, the bugs covering him start to catch fire. Now he is basically a walking human torch. Ilshin casually strolls forward, charges up his middle finger, and flicks a barrage of massive fireballs directly into the enemy ranks. The bugs panic hard, screaming that actual hellfire is raining down on them. They start running for their lives, but the fiery explosions catch them anyway, wiping out huge numbers of their forces. They take massive casualties, but now Ilshin is starting to run dangerously low on mana. On the bright side, his promotion quest for the evil lesser god makes some solid progress. Even with that 50% assimilation rate boost, it is still not enough, and he starts feeling incredibly dizzy. Up in the sky, the glowing apostle of fire glares down, absolutely triggered by him. Apparently, it hates that Ilshin is using the exact same fire as its master. Ilshin assumes it's just another delusional weirdo. Meanwhile, Hyona orders her strongest apostles to execute him. The fire chariot agrees, but demands a fee of 100 million sacrifices. The enemy soldiers immediately panic, realizing they are the ones getting sacrificed, but the goddess does not care. She yells that their deaths are for the glory of the Empire's victory. The fire apostle immediately fires a sea of flames at its own allies, roasting them alive without hesitation. It swallows up its victims in a massive fire vortex to absorb their power. Ilshin notices the monster is growing much bigger from eating its own men, and things are looking bad. The apostle's eyes glow red, and its wheels spin like crazy. The fire chariot drives straight toward our hero, who is still totally exhausted from burning through all his energy. He tries to charge his index finger, but the skill completely fizzles out from lack of mana. Without any defense, the chariot smashes right into him, sending our boy flying backward. He rolls across the ground, thrown far away by the impact, his battered body collapsing in the dirt. Hyona mocks him, asking Nava if she saw the evil god's miserable end. Meanwhile, Ilshin wonders if this is truly over. He really lost. Even as a god, protecting everyone seems impossible right now. Auntie rushes over, crying out for her deity to open his eyes. But the young man can only wonder why on earth she is here. He specifically told her to stay safe in the castle. She tries her best to heal him, but the apostle's dark divine power completely blocks her magic. Watching from above, the enemy is shocked the brat is still breathing. Determined to finish the job, the monster charges again to seal away those annoying master's flames for good. But just in time, Ilho's faithful prayers finally reach our hero's ears. Ilho begs his god for a summon. Squeezing out the last drops of his power, our protagonist tries to pull his loyal follower straight from the tower. Suddenly, blue lightning tears through the sky. Boom! Ilho lands in style, summoned by his glorious god, Ilshin. The loyal warrior boasts that his master has nothing to worry about because he cleared plenty of these exact monsters inside the tower. But mid-sentence, a massive mouthful of razor-sharp teeth chomps down. The tiger-headed monster swallows him whole, laughing that the guy was just a tiny bug to be eaten in one bite. And he panics at the horrific sight. It looks like game over for Ilshin, who cannot even wiggle a finger. But right on cue, a system notification pops up. The legendary sword's repair is done. The world-slicing celestial sword is fully restored. Even better, they discarded some junk parts, making the repair completely free. Talk about a budget win. Suddenly, a massive crack splits the ground. Legendary great sword rises from the deep fissure, radiating insane amounts of power. Like it is drawn by a powerful magnetic force, the weapon flies straight into our hero's waiting hand. The moment his fingers grip the hilt, brilliant blue energy surges through both weapon and master. Ilshin instantly feels his strength rushing back in a tidal wave. Fully recharged, he stands right back up. He is back on his feet and ready for round 2. Sensing the sudden shift in danger, the fire chariot panics. Ilshin activates his skill sharing, sending a wave of absolute terror through the beastly horde. This is the fearsome power of the heavenly demon realm, and one look is enough to make the monsters run for their lives. Smiling darkly, the young man asks if they really think they can escape. His first target is that annoying fire chariot. Moving like lightning, Ilshin blitzes the apostle, landing a devastating blow. The creature crashes hard, its beautifully molded body left in absolute ruins. Next up is the giant serpent monster. With blinding speed, its multiple necks are sliced clean, sending heads rolling across the ground. Just like that, the beast is completely done for. Ilshin holds his stance, gripping the great sword tight. The tiger monster is sent flying backwards. He wants revenge for his eaten follower, but his mana is running low, leaving him wondering about his limits. Can he actually pull off the heavenly demon's realm again? Facepalming, he sighs at how messy this fight has become. Sensing his fatigue, the tiger monster smiles, opening its jaws for a lethal strike. It lunges forward, determined to crush him once and for all. But mid-leap, a sudden chill runs down its spine. The tiger desperately tries to slam on the brakes as it senses a terrifying presence. Its smug face turns to pure terror as an overwhelming aura erupts from the boy. This sudden massive power spike is all thanks to Sunmiri's seal finally shattering into pieces. She has unlocked the path to transcendence. Ilshin is thrilled, realizing miracles can actually happen. His quest as a lower-tier god instantly upgrades, and thanks to Miri, his divine energy is completely restored. Now he has more than enough fuel to unleash the heavenly demon's realm on this overgrown fanged cat. Terrified, the monster decides a direct fight is a terrible idea and tries to back away. But then, a creepy, bizarre sound echoes through the silence. Frowning, Ilshin looks around to find where it is coming from. And the moment he spots the source, his eyes widen in shock. The headless serpent monster is standing back up, growing even bigger than before. Blessed with cheat-like immortality, a simple sword strike is not enough to put it down. The stump of its neck begins regenerating. A brand new head grows right back, fully recharging the beast's dark power. Watching this, our hero finally realizes who he is dealing with, the high-ranking apostle of the Abyssal Swamp. This jerk loves to toy with his prey, making the situation look incredibly grim. The monster sneers, warning him that his trivial, insignificant little sword tricks can never hope to kill an immortal. With a mighty roar, it charges to end him. But wait, the sword itself hears the monster's trash talk, and gets absolutely furious at being called trivial. This completely startles our hero, who is very confused. He had no idea his weapon was alive. Amused by the talking blade, the serpent decides to keep it as a neat trophy, but the sassy sword immediately starts roasting the giant snake right back. The serpent scoffs, bragging that its infinite regeneration makes any attack completely pointless. As Ilshin wonders what kind of crazy spirit is living inside his weapon, the blade suddenly bursts into hysterical laughter. Seriously, the voice sounds like a literal psychopath. The monster is totally baffled by this laughing weapon. The sword finally gasps out that it is laughing because the overgrown worm is already dead. The giant snake is left scratching its head in confusion. But before that confusion can turn into anger, a massive shockwave hits. Suddenly, its cheat tier regeneration completely stops working. The neck it was trying to regrow simply evaporates into thin air. That previous heavenly demon strike is an absolute law-based attack, making it totally impossible for the beast to heal from. Its regeneration is broken. The sassy sword keeps roasting the beast, calling it a very bold little worm. Just like that, Ilshin defeats the High Apostle, and the system prepares to absorb the tribute. An Apostle counts as a premium class 2 sacrifice, pushing his lower-tier God quest way forward. Dark, sinister energy begins to flow out of the blade and directly into the young man. Feeling his power skyrocket, he wonders what insane upgrade he will get once he collects all 10 sacrifices. But before he can celebrate, a shadow falls from above, signaling another incoming threat. The tiger-headed beast roars that it is too late, vowing to shred him to pieces. Flapping its massive wings, it creates a wild gust of wind and charges straight at our protagonist like a runaway train. The beast unleashes a massive wave of energy, but Ilshin casually parries the attack with a slick swipe of his blade. The talking sword actually praises him, saying he is adapting pretty well. Our hero is just annoyed that this overgrown cat tried to cheap shot him. The tiger is flabbergasted that its ultimate charge was blocked so easily. Shaking with fear, it desperately begs him to wait. Ilshin thinks the coward is just trying to play cheap tricks. But suddenly, the monster's stomach starts bulging and warping in the most bizarre, painful way, leaving our hero totally dumbfounded. The tiger loses control and plummets straight down, crashing into the dirt like a falling meteor. It screeches in pure agony, clutching its gut as its eyes roll to the back of its head. Suddenly, rip, a dark figure bursts right out of the beast's stomach. It is Ilho, flexing his insane muscle powers to break free from the inside. Ilshin is absolutely thrilled to see him alive. His loyal follower survived. The warrior proudly explains that oversized monsters who think size is everything are always weak to internal digestion issues. Ilshin happily gives him a big thumbs up, but then, our exhausted hero starts to stumble, prompting the sassy sword to sigh about having a troublesome master. With the fight finally over, Ilshin asks the blade who it actually is. The blade tells him to listen closely to its grand, honorable identity. But the dramatic silence only annoys the young man, who hates the suspense. Right before revealing its name, the sword completely forgets it. Ilshin wonders if this is just the heavenly sword's talking kitchen knife, but the vibe is totally off. He tries asking his system about it, but the celestial blade decides to play dumb and ignore him. He seriously starts considering asking the shop for a refund. But while he is spacing out, he completely misses the fact that the fire chariot is still breathing, bitterly complaining about its broken body. Yeah, forgiveness is off the table. Meanwhile, Ilshin is literally picking his nose watching this drama. The greedy fire beast demands the priestess serve up more sacrifices, so Hyona offers a sacrifice of 100 million, then raises it to 1 billion. But that is pocket change to this monster. It demands a whopping 100 billion all at once, leaving the priestess completely shocked, angry eyes blazing. The fire beast demands she hand it over. In the distance, the army spots a massive wall of fire rushing their way, vaporizing everyone in an instant. Ha begs the apostle to stop, warning that this breaks their contract and the emperor will be furious. But the greedy monster ignores him, screaming for more and more sacrifices. Watching this, Ilshin finally realizes things are getting seriously out of hand. The beast keeps devouring lives. The entire battlefield turns into a literal living hell, engulfed in flames. All that remains is a path of total destruction. But nearby, Ilho casually lifts a giant boulder. He challenges the blazing beast, mocking it for only boasting about its size. The kid's physical strength is so insane, his feet sink deep into the dirt. He launches the massive rock like a missile, but as it gets closer, the intense heat starts melting the stone. Those beastly flames are just too intense. Flexing its heat, the beast tells them to witness the ultimate power of its master, the sky shining fire. The monster's face is now nothing but pure, blazing wrath. Clueless, Ilho asks Ilshin what their next move should be. The divine sword gets annoyed, calling the kid incredibly naive. Grinning, our main character asks if his weapon has a master plan. The sword suggests simply slicing off any head that uses such weak flames. Classic sword logic, right? Completely unhinged. The battlefield is already starting to look like a volcano, but the blade insists there is absolutely nothing it cannot slice. Sure, it sounds completely suicidal, But Ilshin has zero other options right now. He has to trust his weapon. Stealing his resolve, he readies the blade with both hands. He activates his sharing skill, calling upon the sword demon, the divine sword of the celestial demon. The fire chariot is stunned to see him charging straight into the heat. He keeps pushing forward, but the arrogant beast remains unfazed, mockingly asking if that is all he has got. Ilshin realizes that even with the celestial sword's buffs, his weapon has its limits. He seriously regrets not reading the fine print when he saw the free delivery option. Meanwhile, the smug enemy is laughing. But suddenly, that confident grin melts off its flaming face, replaced by pure agony as it screams in pain. Boom! A massive explosion rips through the air. The sword proudly declares the enemy has been sliced, but Ilshin rolls his eyes. He was the one doing the actual swinging. Thankfully, he manages to stay awake this time, unlike his embarrassing blackout during the fight with Gustav. Just then, system notifications start spamming his screen. The divine abundance stares at the flaming sky with worry, while the soundless nightmare warns him not to celebrate just yet. Looking up, Ilshin freezes. His jaw drops at what he sees. This fiery apostle originally came from a legendary clash between brother gods. Slicing the beast did not kill it, it actually broke the ancient seal, holding its true power back. The celestial sword tells him to throw in the towel. This guy has the power of a major god, and Ilshin is completely out of divine juice. Game over, right? No way. Ilshin refuses to quit. There is always a loophole. As the fiery wasteland burns, the roaring apostle screams that he is going to turn the entire world into ash along with our hero. But Ilshin remembers he is not alone. There is another guy here who never gives up. He looks at Ilho, realizing the kid is his golden ticket out of this mess. But the young warrior is shaking in his boots. Seeing this, Ilshin barks at him to stop being a coward and offer a sacrifice immediately. That spark ignites something in Ilho's eyes. The mini-fighter grabs the tail of the very beast that swallowed him. He starts spinning it like a crazy lasso, offering the monster as a tribute to his god. Ilshin gets hyped. This tribute is going to be massive. The apostle laughs, thinking their efforts are completely useless. But then, the tiger-headed monster is launched with insane force. Ilshin gets ready. He begins absorbing the entire beast through his index finger until it vanishes completely. A dark energy cloud swirls like a mini black hole. This offering is easily worth 2 S-rank sacrifices. Quest complete. This massive sacrifice promotes him to a low-level evil god. Instantly, a smug grin creeps onto his face. He can feel the divine power coursing through him. Ilho throws his hands up, shouting for everyone to bow down to Lord Yu Ilshin. Even Auntie starts praying like her life depends on it. Honestly, having loyal worshippers feels amazing. The apostle sneers, saying resistance is futile and he will burn this entire world to the ground. But our newly crowned god just raises his middle finger in supreme defiance, telling him to shut his mouth. It is already way too hot here, so he should beat it. Boom. Ilshin delivers a brutal punch straight to the apostle's flaming chin. The beast takes the hit, boasting that cheap tricks will not save him. That is when Ilshin realizes just how monstrously strong this guy is. The reality of the situation finally sets in. That 100 to billion sacrifice buff is no joke. Even as a low-level god, our boy is still outmatched. The flaming apostle steps forward, warning that nothing can make him back down. As the beast closes the distance, the temperature spikes, and the fortress walls start liquefying. Ilshin realizes his heavenly demon realm is not going to cut it this time. He is forced to dip into the heavenly sword's vault, but the sword itself screams at him to stop, warning him that absolutely nothing in his arsenal can slice through these flames. Completely cornered, our hero is out of ideas. But then, a dark blue streak plummets from the heavens. Even the sword is stunned. Meanwhile, far away at nightfall, a grand building stands under the dark sky. Inside, empty boxes and a phone clutter a bed while the sword demon trains like a madman. Exhausted and sweating, the guy finally reaches his limit. He has done it. He finally mastered the second form, and all that hard-earned energy is transferred straight to his god. It is time to unleash the heavenly demon's second form. With this massive power boost, the heavenly sword finally recovers its lost memories. Its creepy single eye flies wide open as the weapon suddenly begins to shift shape. It transforms into a majestic old man with long white hair. Radiating pure, overwhelming energy, he announces his true identity as the legendary heavenly demon. Ilshin is utterly bewildered. Stunned by the revelation, Ilshin gets a sudden flashback of the old man's tragic past. We see him beaten, bloody, and holding his weapon as tears stream down his wounded face. He looks down at a girl lying lifeless on the ground. The legendary demon actually had to execute his own daughter after she joined the god of destruction. He also slaughtered a million of her cultists before taking his own life. Absolute tragedy. Reliving these dark memories, The old man breaks down in grief. Suddenly, an system alert pops up. He has spent millennia searching for someone to avenge his family. He lost his memories to a total scam, but the sword demon's training finally broke the seal. The heavenly sword, which cuts everything, tried to scam the heavenly demon into serving it. But the demon refused outright, declaring he absolutely despises scammers. It did not go as planned, and he got sealed away instead. The sword wiped his memories and forced him to work as free labor. Ilshin gets furious, learning his epic weapon was basically running a sweatshop. That legendary sword was actually acting like a total fraud. But the spirit points out that the sword demon is the reason his memories came back, making him a loyal follower. Ilshin clenches his fist and asks a deadly serious question. Does this spirit honestly believe the young god can pull off this extreme revenge? With absolute confidence, our hero promises he will make him taste his steel. This gets the spirit hyped, and he bursts into wild laughter. Reaching out to the young man, he declares Ilshin is fully worthy of being his master and wielding his power. Then, his physical form starts shifting right back into a glowing blade. Quickly, Ilshin readies another epic technique. Just like that, our boy gets the legendary heavenly demon as a brand new ally. Meanwhile, the Apostle of Fire is totally blindsided by the sudden strike. With this, the promotion quest to become a low-rank benevolent god finally hits 100% completion. After so much crazy grind, Ilshin successfully ascends. Talk about a massive power-up. The awakening of the demonic blade was the final piece of the puzzle to spark a literal miracle. Now, Ilshin is practically beaming with confidence, but the fire apostle starts screaming, mockingly asking if our boy really thinks he can win just because of a few new tricks. To counter our hero, the monster unleashes a colossal wave of pure fire. This is it, the ultimate clash between two absolute powerhouses. The sword whispers that to put out a fire, you just need a much bigger one. Adjusting his grip on the hilt, the hero makes his move. The heavenly demon explains this is his version of the Great Flaming Hell, one of the absolute worst hells in existence. The fire apostle presses on, roaring that struggle is totally useless. The two opposing forces are about to collide, and when they do, they trigger a gigantic explosion. The beast is utterly stunned to see the young god cutting straight through its holy flames. Ilshin coldly tells the monster to get lost, since it is already hot as hell. The epic clash leaves a massive gash on the fire monster, though it confidently assumes its master's divine spark will heal it instantly. Too bad for him. Those relentless blue flames keep chewing through the monster's face as despair finally sets in. The sky turns a beautiful mix of purple and blue as the fire burns everything. Holding his sword tight, Ilshin watches the chaos, realizing things went way better than he expected. The sky clears up, and the apostle has completely vanished. Our hero is thrilled he managed to protect Antrea. The local ant subjects are absolutely celebrating. Seeing this literal miracle, Ilho happily shouts that this is exactly what he expected from Lord Ilshin, and he never had a single doubt. Our protagonist just chuckles sarcastically, muttering that he knew he would say that, but right now he desperately needs a nap. He tells them to handle the rest. Auntie and Ilho bow deeply, accepting the order. Right then, a game notification confirms his ultimate victory in the Holy War. Ilshin's legendary name spreads across the world, unlocking the intermediate god promotion quest for both good and evil alignments. Sometime later, we find our tired protagonist chilling in a chair. The sword is resting beside him, watching his every move. The boy looks weirdly happy and starts laughing. The celestial sword just glares at him, angrily calling him a shameless thief. But, wearing a cheeky grin, the young man shoots back that the celestial sword was the one trying to rob him first. The sword complains it had no clue the demonic blade could awaken the celestial demon's old memories. It claims the boy caused massive damage, so the repair bill will be a whopping 50 million divine coins. Ilshin is completely shocked, calling the price a total scam. He counters, saying he will pay 10 million coins max. Suddenly, the soundless nightmare chimes in, mentioning a cheap blacksmith. The other stalkers quickly pitch in with cheaper options because the market is insanely competitive. Fearing it might lose the gig, the celestial sword quickly accepts the 10 million. But now, Ilshin brilliantly plays hardball, offering only 3 million. The slicing sword calls that a complete insult, but our boy brings up all the cash it already scammed out of him, saying this basically evens the score. Having no choice, the celestial sword grumpily agrees to the 3 million. Out of nowhere, the boy gets an urgent call from the director, demanding to know where he is. He is ordered to the Hunter Association immediately, because hundreds of Gustav crocodile eggs were just discovered. Shortly after, they arrive at the headquarters. A massive advertisement featuring the ultra-popular Sung Mina stands at the entrance. Ilshin spots it and is totally amazed. The two guys silently agree that she is incredibly gorgeous. But the next second, their jaws drop. The famous girl is standing right there in front of them, accompanied by the association director and Sun Miri. Our hero greets them warmly, but the director is in a massive rush to inspect those crocodile eggs. Since the sword demon is not part of the association, he is told to wait outside. Being a good sport, the young man happily agrees to wait. Turns out, every single S-rank hunter in the country has gathered here just to see these legendary eggs. Suddenly, Baek Yu-hyun spots Ilshin and waves him over. He invites the young man to sit with him, suggesting Mina should take the seat next to him too, but the beautiful girl immediately grabs Ilshin's arm, saying she only wants to sit by her professor. An older gentleman politely asks everyone to take their seats. It is Chairman Lee Ji-tae, who officially announces that the infamous Gustav eggs are about to be revealed. Sung Mina gets super excited, drooling over how delicious they might taste. Poor Ilshin is stuck right in the middle of a spicy love triangle between the redhead and his ex. But then, a bizarre sight catches his eye. A mysterious blonde woman is sitting nearby, wearing a ridiculous penguin mask. Besides that weird mask, her clothes and posture look completely normal. Even with all his skills, our hero cannot scan her identity. This leaves him seriously worried, wondering what her deal is. Suddenly, Mina spots the egg and squeals with joy. A cart slowly rolls in, presenting the mysterious object to the crowd. It is a massive egg studded with glowing magical gemstones. The chairman proudly presents the egg of the double S-rank boss monster, Gustav. Out of 100 eggs found in Africa, this is the only one left unhatched. The other 99 are currently missing and being hunted down. Ilshin remembers nearly dying against that beast, and now there are 99 baby monsters running loose. Out of nowhere, the colossal egg begins to tremble violently, shocking our protagonist. The staff members panic as deep cracks rapidly spread across the shell. And then, with a loud snap, a tiny baby crocodile with glowing eyes pops its head out. Everyone in the room is instantly charmed by how incredibly adorable it is. The little creature squeaks out some weird, muffled noises, but Ilshin immediately recognizes it as a deadly threat. The baby claims it has found its mother's killer. Our hero gets anxious, realizing he might be the only one who can translate its words. Without warning, the baby crocodile launches forward like a bullet, racing down the table. The young man is stunned by the terrifying speed of a literal newborn creature. The baby stops right in front of Ilshin, fiercely declaring it will end him. It readies its tiny claws for a lethal strike. Our boy is still frozen in shock, unable to believe what is happening. But surprisingly, the baby's movements seem to slow down to a crawl. He suddenly realizes he has become insanely strong. Since he is a low-level god now, this tiny reptile is absolutely zero threat. The moment the baby crocodile registers his immense power, its cute face completely distorts with horror. It realizes that despite just being born, its life is already over. But before our boy can strike, a massive punch intercepts the beast, blasting the reptile away at breakneck speed. The sender of that punch is none other than Kang Jong-hook, a famous S-rank hunter. Smashing into the wall, the baby squeals in pain, realizing it needs to run away fast. But another powerful hunter pins it to the wall instantly. It is Shin Yu, who admits he was almost fooled by the monster's cute face. Gasping for breath, the baby is absolutely sure its time is up. But the hunter lets go and asks if everyone is safe. Ilshin tries to catch his breath, feeling totally embarrassed. The S-rank hunters took down the threat before he could even lift a finger, proving they are on a whole different level. Meanwhile, Mina clings tightly to her friend Miri, and starts screaming about how terrifying this tiny crocodile is. The director and Yoo-hoon are just annoyed by its audacity, but our main character stays dead silent, closely observing its behavior. Now, the little guy is shaking like a leaf, praying to any god out there to save its scaly life. Suddenly, a heavy voice approaches, asking if this thing is still alive, and raising a foot to stomp it out of existence. But just as the boot is about to crush the baby crocodile, an old man interrupts. Wait, that is Goa Duke, an S-rank hunter, leader of the Fire Temple Guild, and the legendary one-man army. Kang Yung demands to know why he is interfering. Duke calmly replies he cannot let this creature be damaged at all, since he wants to study it. Our blonde hunter isn't having it, insisting he must slaughter the crocodile himself to satisfy his ego. Smiling sarcastically, the old man asks why youngsters today are so incredibly rude. Right then, the entire room begins to rattle like a massive earthquake. The old man starts channeling intense power, promising a much-needed lesson in respect through a solid beating. The sword demon and everyone else present feel the room shaking violently. Realizing the old master is about to summon a spirit soldier right here, the director screams at him to stop. But Kang Yung has his own trump card, calling forth a badass set of armor. He stands toe-to-toe with Duke, locked in a fierce stare-down until Director Choi steps in to block them. Yu Ilshin watches the drama unfold, wishing he had some popcorn. Honestly, You and I both know there is nothing better than watching people ruin their own day. Meanwhile, the tiny crocodile is still trembling on the floor, whimpering for salvation. Our main character notices, locking eyes with the little critter. The fierce baby beast is now utterly terrified. Suddenly, a system notification pops up. It is Gustav's apostle. If he saves this terrified baby male crocodile, it might trigger a small miracle. Ilshin's eyes immediately light up, but there is a slight catch. Sneaking a rescue under everyone's noses during this heated brawl will be tricky. Just then, the system sends another prompt, leaving him even more puzzled. The window asks if a benevolent low-level god would show mercy to a tiny monster, suggesting he can rescue it stealthily. Reading the prompt, our guy hits the yes option without a second thought. Instantly, the baby crocodile is wrapped in a glowing blue aura, its eyes widening in pure confusion at what is happening, before suddenly vanishing into thin air. A bit panicked, Ilshin wonders who could have pulled off such a trick. He pulls out his phone to assess the crazy situation, but as he checks the display, he gasps. The weird lady in the penguin mask immediately spots his sudden reaction. Meanwhile, our little crocodile is teleported straight to Antria, right next to Auntie. Plus, his look got a major cute upgrade. Back in the room, absolutely nobody has noticed the reptile went missing, way too focused on the intense standoff. But Ilshin realizes they'll lose their minds once they find out, forcing him to scramble for a quick plan B. Just then, the creepy penguin mask lady sneaks up right behind him. He flinches back, nervously asking if she witnessed his little stunt. She shakes her head, but then her eyes wander to the empty spot. Panicking, Ilshin quickly tells her to wait so they can negotiate, but she simply raises her arm. He braces for the absolute worst, keeping his voice calm to talk her down. As it turns out, she was just waving hello. Next thing he knows, she turns around and strolls away, completely oblivious to everything. Then, out of nowhere, a massive explosion rocks the room. Emerging right from the smoke, a young man leaps onto the table. It is the dramatic sword demon, terrified for his master's safety. This is actually a perfect distraction for Ilshin, who realizes he can use this chaos to escape. But one of the hunters recognizes this sudden intruder, asking if he's Kang. The long-haired follower flatly denies it, but Shinyu calls him out on his blatant lie, claiming to be his one and only best friend. Now Ilshin is genuinely intrigued by their dynamic, but he has bigger fish to fry. Putting on his best furious face, he loudly yells the sword demon's name to scold him for causing such an insane scene in public. He drags his loyal servant out by the collar, yelling that they need to take this talk outside, leaving the rival hunters and director completely bewildered. Once in the hallway, Ilshin keeps pulling him along. The sword demon, being the dramatic drama queen he is, starts rambling about ending his own life to atone for his shameful actions. But our MC, who is secretly super grateful for the rescue, tells him to shut up and chill for a second. Suddenly, Duke's angry voice echoes through the halls, demanding to know where the crocodile went. Too late, old man. Ilshin is already long gone. Naturally, the missing specimen gives the two rival hunters another perfect excuse to keep throwing hands. This realization puts a wicked smirk on our MC's face. Kang Jung blames Duke's meddling, while the penguin lady keeps spouting complete nonsense. A bit later, you and I find our main character hiding out in the quiet academy infirmary. Ilshin finally lies down to enjoy some sweet, peaceful quiet. Meanwhile, he's tasked Auntie back in the game world with raising the cute baby crocodile. To keep it safe, Ilshin puts a powerful magical seal around its neck like a collar. It's the least he can do since his loyal aunt agreed to play babysitter. Honestly, he is dying to see what kind of crazy miracle this little creature might pull off. Suddenly, the infirmary door creaks open. A gray-haired guy steps in, asking if playing this little game is really that fun. Ilshin bolts upright, demanding to know what Shinyu is doing here. Frowning, Shinyu says he has a few questions, but his arm instantly begins to crackle with dangerous blue energy. Man, S-rank hunters really don't know the meaning of the word chill.